आओ स्वर्ग बनाए मिलकर, आओ स्वर्ग बनाए मिलकर, कहती ये दुनिया सारी, कहती ये दुनिया सारी, जैसी सोच वैसा जीवन, जैसी सोच वैसा जीवन, वैसी ही सृष्टि हमारी। हम फैलाए ज्ञान प्रकाश, बदलेंगे धरा आकाश। हम फैलाए ज्ञान प्रकाश, बदलेंगे धरा आकाश। अब सबकी यही है आस, अब सबकी यही है आस।
Okay, so let's begin with the sensory perception. So, the first session we learned about the very basic processes of very basic understanding of human brain and neurons, how do neurons function, and what all are the supporting cells of neurons, glial cells, and other things. Here in this part, we will learn a very basic thing about what are the different sensory perception. And when I say sensory perception, it's about perceiving all the different sensory modalities. So in our routine life, we undergo multiple, or thousands of, or even numerous, I would use the word numerous, of sensory modalities, be it light, be it sound, or be it vibrations, pressure, a lot of other things. So our body has different special receptors which can receive all this sensation, right? What all are these sensations? We'll go through in this session. So there are multiple receptors in the body present, whether it's on skin, whether it's on joints, or even the inside part of the body. We can divide them into multiple types. First one is called mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors means something which has ability to receive mechanical activity, right? That's why we call it mechanoreceptor. Thermoreceptors are those specialized receptors which have the ability to receive the change in energy, change in especially the heat, right? These are called thermoreceptors. Then we have nociceptors, which are specialized to perceive the nociception. When I say nociception, it's the neuroscientific term for pain. So for pain, there are specialized sensors in the body. Electromagnetic receptors are there which receive electromagnetic radiation, which we call as eyes. So I have two specific type of cells which we call as rod cells and cone cells. We'll learn in the later slides. And then last are the chemoreceptors. So what are the chemoreceptors? Which receive the chemical sensation. What are the chemical sensations? Chemical sensations are what we receive through our olfactory organs, which is nose, and what we receive through our gustatory organ, which is our tongue, right? Our tongue is specialized to receive multiple kind of taste, right? So mechanoreceptors are present on the skin. They are present in a when hear for hearing. And there is a inner ear which we call it cochlea. One part of that inner ear we call it cochlea. Cochlea. Why do we call it cochlea? Because cochlea is like a structure of cochlear, which is very much similar to the shell, which is more like one animal in the sea which you find. So there's shell kind of structure is there, and then equilibrium. For equilibrium, we have vestibular apparatus. What is vestibular apparatus? Which basically takes the, so there are three canals in the inner ear, which basically check the activity of your 3D axis. One is for X, one is for Y, and one is for Z. So there are three axes in this whole 3D world, right? We call it this as 3D world. Whatever we are, wherever we are walking, when we are walking towards, forward or the backward, we can consider this as an x-axis. अगर हम left right में move करते हैं तो we can consider this as a y-axis. If we are going up and down, we are considering this as a z-axis. So all the three axis movement can be perceived by these three inner ear organs, which we call vestibular apparatus. And why I've written it for equilibrium? Because you see, whenever we go to the high pressure or whenever we go to the high altitude or low altitude, so we feel it. We can actually, even if you close your eyes, if any of you have gone into the swing, जो एक झूला होता है मेले में, अगर आप झूले में बैठे हो तो आपने कभी फील किया होगा. Even if you close your eyes, you can feel that you're going down, or when you're going up, you can feel it. So from which part of the organ, which part of the like receptive organ you are feeling it, that is the vestibular apparatus in your ear. And then there are pressure receptors, which we call it baroreceptors or baroreceptors, which are present on your arteries. And why it is important? Because our body has to regulate its blood pressure, right? Our body has mechanism to regulate its blood pressure, and in order to do that, it requires the exact amount of pressure what should be there in the body, right? So there are multiple baroreceptors which are present in the body. Then we have thermoceptors which can feel the cold and warmth. So let's say these are the receptors which are present on the skin, and then these are their projection neurons, which basically gives the idea of whether it is whether it is a hot sensation or whether it's a cold sensation, or whether it is a mixed sensation, right? So this is how the different receptors are altogether connected. Then there is a stimuli. For let's say for cold stimuli, you see cold pathway is different. But when a hot stimuli is there, so there is thermoceptor, there is an intermediate pathway for cold, and there is also a thermoceptor pathway for hot, which is projecting neuron to the hot pathway. So why it is important? It's a very basic understanding of how hot and cold is perceived in the body. So hot and cold perceive करने के लिए there is a direct pathway. But for hot, perceiving the hot, there is a pathway जिससे हमको जो hot neurons हैं या जो hot heat sensitive neurons हैं वो फायर करेंगे, बट देर आर मल्टीपल न्यूरॉन्स विच विल इनहिबिट द कोल्ड पाथवे साथ में, ताकि मिक्स्ड वाली फीलिंग वहां पे ना जाए, राइट? सो टू दीज आर लाइक these are different pathways through this we can feel the cold and the warmth. Nociceptors are the free nerve endings, and chemoreceptors are for taste, For smell, for arterial oxygen, receptors present on the aortic bodies, osmolarity. For osmolarity, what is the presence? Because our body requires a concentration of ions and the water. If this concentration of water or the ions gets changed, a body assumes it, and then it requires to fulfill that. So whenever we feel like thirsty, whenever we feel like that our body, we are feeling fatigue, so we quickly try to consume fluids. So how do we do that? So there are certain receptors present on the body, inside the body, and they basically provide the input to the supraoptic nuclei in the brain. So in brain there is one specific region which is called as supraoptic nuclei, which is responsible for taking the perception of osmolality. What is the concentration of ions in your fluid, in your blood, in your fluid? Then there is a thing which basically lies on one receptor which lies on the medulla surface, which is part of the brain stem, which basically measures the blood carbon dioxide concentration, right? So when carbon dioxide is higher in the volume, so you get asphyxiate. You feel like you have to, you try to take deep breath. So how this reflex is happening? This is also a reflex, right? Barrow reflex. So these kind of reflexes are also being governed using the brain, one part of the brain, which where these receptors are present on the medulla surface. Then for the blood biochemistry, there are multiple receptors present in hypothalamus, which basically triggers the amount of hormones, amount of different chemicals or neurotransmitters present in the brain. Now, these are for the electromagnetic receptors, which are called as rods and cones. So why do we call it rods and cones? Because of their shapes. The initial part of the disc is shaped in a rod shape, and this is called a rod cell. And initial part of the disc is collected as a this outer segment is looked like a cone. That's why this is called a cone cells. And both of these receptors are present in the retina. So the retina is more like a projection screen. So whatever you see, everything, all the light, see, whatever we see, it's basically the transmission of light or reflection of light, reflection of world. That's what we say. Whatever we see is a reflection of world. And this reflection of world we receive through our eyes, through these two receptors. Somatosensation is the sensation of through your body. So there are very specialized centers which are present on your let's say on your fingers, and on fingers there are multiple kind of receptors are present. One kind of receptors are called Meissner corpuscles, which have the very fine receptive field. So here you need to understand the concept of receptive field. What is the receptive field? आप देखेंगे कभी if you try to localize a pain, or if you try to localize where exactly are you touching, so it is easy to pinpoint on your face. It is even easier to pinpoint on your tongue, but it is very difficult to pinpoint on your back. Because of, you remember in the first session we talked about the homunculus, the representation of the sensory areas, right? So that's how I'm correlating it with them. Receptive fields are different for different kind of receptors. Merkel cells are other kind of receptor. Pacinian corpuscles are other kinds of receptors. Ruffini endings are other kind of receptors. So these are different kind of receptors through which we feel the different kind of vibration. We can sense the different kind of textures. We have these fingers, very specialized receptors present on the fingers. These four specific receptors, which provides us the perception of different kind of texture, or even for like hot and cold, other things are there. But these four things are especially only for the somatosensation for different kind of texture surfaces. Nociception. For nociception, there are two kind of fibers. When I say fiber, these are the brain processes. Brain has one, I told you the structure, soma, the cell body, and then the receptors, and then the projection. So these receivers are two types in nociception to perceive the pain of any type. One is the A delta fiber, one is the C fiber. So why do we say A delta and the C fiber? There are different numbers which in order they were discovered. Apart from that, C fibers have a very distinct ability that C fibers are not ensheathed. तो आप समझ सकते हैं when something is not ensheathed, energy loss is very high, and there are why C fiber is taking place. So you see the first pain, what we perceive on the x-axis, it's a subjective pain intensity. So when pain is very high, the first pain is perceived by A delta fiber. So any जैसे ही pain prick होता है, तो pain prick करते ही सबसे पहले this A delta fiber comes into picture and they perceive what kind of pain is it. The very sharp pain pricking pain is there. Then the second pain, the very tingling sensations get projected by C fibers, बहुत fine आके, and then over the time period, you feel that very tingling pain, very continuous pain is there because of that A delta fiber stopped working in that time. Only C fibers are working, and when C fibers are working that time, you will only feel the continuous pain, but a very limited amount of pain, right? And this is also let's try to understand in the concept of stabilizers. So C fibers, because C fibers are not ensheathed, so they lose most of the sensation which is coming from the wounded area. Any place where your body is wounded, कोई भी physical injury होती है, so from there एक लंबे time पे pain रहता है, right? But why the pain is persisting? Because of these C fibers which are continuously giving the sensation of pain. Now we'll understand a little bit about the visual system. So most of our impression of the world and memories of visual world are based on the sight. And it's very interesting to know that whatever we see, we always talk about, I mean, in the initial classes, we have learned that human eye works as camera, but human brain does not work as camera, right? So human eye does the projection of any image which is there. It provides the inverted image onto the brain or one part of the brain. But brain, how does the brain process? That's a very tricky thing. And there is an evolutionary perspective. There is always an evolutionary perspective behind any kind of learning about visual system. So what is that? So you see, what do you see in this picture? Anybody can see this? Can anybody tell what exactly they look in this picture? Sunlight. Okay. Anything else? Huh? So yeah, could be anything. I mean, there's nothing is true, nothing is false. So it is everyone's own perception, right? So when we try to learn about more about the visual system, when we try to learn more about the how do we see things, there are few things which we try to understand with the help of illusions, visual illusions, right? आप लोगों ने WhatsApp में कभी images देखे होंगे that there are certain rings are there and then rings are appearing with some beautiful colorful pattern, and then you see it is saying that if you see this you will notice that these are moving, right? I might have shown that also, maybe in one of the slides it's there, but because of time constraint I'm not moving to that. So there are multiple mechanisms through which you actually look at the picture and then you try to perceive it. But let's try to understand the neuroscientific perspective of how do we see things from the electromagnetic perception, electromagnetic radiation. So electromagnetic radiation में क्या है? So if you see the visual stimuli, the nature of visual stimuli is there are three kind of ranges in which we can see things. Actually, in the scotopic vision, we hardly see anything. If in the mesopic vision, we see very light things where only brightness and contrast we can receive, right? Which is basically the spectrum of moonlight, right? So on the first, you consider this as a luminance of white paper. एक व्हाइट पेपर आपने लिया, उसके ऊपर जो कलर आप देख रहे हैं, अगर लाइट का ल्यूमिनेंस उस पर जितना पड़ रहा है, यू कंसिडर इट दैट, एंड उसके अकॉर्डिंग इफ यू हैव टू डिफाइन डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ विजन्स, मीजोपिक विजन स्टेज एट समवेयर वेयर you see the white paper in the moonlight, उस पे जितना लाइट पड़ता है, you consider that the mesopic vision. Then indoor lighting in the sunlight will go to the photopic vision, which basically tells us more about the features, the different colors, and depth of things, or the distance between the things, right? So our brain perceives things in a fashion that when we grow as a like from a child to the adult end, we try to understand. We try to understand the first go with the brightness and contrast. What is the contrast between two different things? What is the contrast of light between two things? What is the brightness of two different things. That's how we differentiate between two things. That's how we differentiate between faces. That's how we differentiate between the objects. Then comes the third picture, the third property in the picture, which is the distance perception, or the depth perception. How far anything is away from you, how far is it is kept. So this reception of electromagnetic energy is sensed from the environment, and rods, which basically sense the black and white, and cones take the color vision. These are the photoreceptors that picks up this electromagnetic radiation. You consider, so from our eye, all the radiation is coming through this, and then at the end of this, these discs are present, and these discs receive the respective radiation which are present in black and white, the difference in black and white, and the difference in different color thresholds, right? After that, they will give us the information that, okay, this is particular kind of color. If we see the eye, so there are multiple regions, which basically, how do we govern the function of that? So the very first thing, which is called lens, and the cornea, these two structures which are present in the blue, they are important for the image formation. कोई भी image from, so these are the part of the camera lens. Consider these are the camera lens, right? So our eyes also have lens, and then the cornea. They help in the image formation. Then there is an exposure control, which basically are the pupil and the iris muscles, right? So these basically takes us how much amount of light. These are the exposure control. If anybody is familiar with the DSLR functions, they know about that. There is a shutter, how much it should be open, and with what size it should be open. That will be the exposure control of the eye. Then the detection of it will be done using the retina, which has the rods and the cone cells. ठीक है, ये जो रेटाइना का रीजन होता है, इस पूरे सेशन में जो भी लाइट आपकी आंखों में पड़ती है, इस पूरी रेटाइना में अलग अलग जगह पे प्रोजेक्ट होती है, और थ्रू ऑप्टिक नर्व ये वापस प्रोसेस होने के लिए ब्रेन में जाता है. ठीक है. एकोमोडेशन इज वन फंक्शन, जिसमें जो लेंस का है, लेंस की आसपास में जो कुछ सीलियरी मसल्स होती हैं, वो लेंस का शेप चेंज करती हैं टू प्रोवाइड एग्जैक्ट. आप जब कोई भी बाइनोकुलर यूज करते हैं, अपना कैमरा फोकस में यूज करते हैं, सो यू सी के वो कैमरा में फोकस करते हैं या बाइनोकुलर में फोकस करते हैं. इन द आईज दैट फोकस इज बीन डन बाय सीलियरी मसल्स इन दिस पर्टिकुलर लेंस. ठीक है. सीलियरी मसल्स का जो एकोमोडेशन रेंज है, ये कैसे एडजस्ट होता है, इसीलिए देखते हैं कि जैसे जैसे अब तो बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर यूजिंग डिजिटल डिवाइसेस, और उसकी वजह से बहुत सारा अल्ट्रा वायलेट रेडिएशंस और ब्लू कलर रेडिएशन हम परसीव कर रहे हैं, एंड मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर वियरिंग आई ग्लासेस. बट इन द प्रीवियस टाइम, अगर हमारी प्रीवियस जनरेशन में देखेंगे, अपने ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स को देखेंगे, तो दे हार्डली हैड वियर एनी काइंड ऑफ ग्लासेस. तो अगर उनके टाइम में देखेंगे, तो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस एकोमोडेशन रेंज तो है वो 55 के आसपास आते आते वो कम होता जाता है. एंड दिस एकोमोडेशन, बिकॉज ऑफ द एडजस्टमेंट, दे रिक्वायर एन एक्स्ट्रा लेंस विच दे यूज एट द ग्लासेस. ठीक है. रेटिनल फोटो ट्रांसडक्शन इज अ प्रोसेस विच वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि इसमें जो एक पूरा रॉड सेल्स होता है, उसके अंदर केमिकल ट्रांसडक्शन होता है, जिसमें कैल्शियम और सोडियम चैनल्स का बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है ना. फिर बहुत सारे लेयर्स होते हैं. ये जब जैसे ही लाइट आती है, रोड्स एंड कॉन्सेल्स पर पड़ती है, देन मल्टीपल लेयर्स ऑफ स्टेबलाइजेशन रिक्वायर्ड, राइट. Try to understand with the help of what the camera is having. There are multiple processes the camera also have. Eyes are much more sophisticated than that, right? So कोई भी vision, कोई भी चीज को देखने के लिए, there are multiple things which requires to be stabilized. When I'm looking at all your faces, how I can recognize all the faces, how I can differentiate between all the faces, that is even beyond this part, what we are understanding right here. But this part is all about how do we receive this information. So there are multiple layers which are present in between. Suppose there are a lot of light are present, बहुत सारा एकदम से light exposure आता है, तो उस light exposure से हमारी आंखों को नुकसान ना हो. So there are multiple of these horizontal cells are present, or amacrine cells are present, which takes up lot of this light and do not let pass this to the other layers. Right. So basically, again, there are multiple stabilizers or regulators present in this part also. Light यहाँ से आया, and then ये light, there are multiple regions in the brain, I mean in the eyes. So half side of the eyeball is called as nasal, and half side away from the eyeball is called temporal. So both eyes have temporal side, both eyes have nasal side. Am I able to see, right? So जो red part है, red part is nasal. For this is red part. Oh, sorry, this blue part is nasal. For the left eye, the blue part is temporal. For the right eye, the red part is temporal. So both part receive the information. वो दोनों जगह से information receive करके there is an optic chiasma जहां से ये क्रॉस ओवर करते हैं information को एक जगह से दूसरे region में. Right eye will provide information to the left brain. Left eye will provide information to the right brain. That's how they process the information and finally reach up to the visual cortex. जहां पे there are multiple layers. In between also there are multiple layers. LGN is one part, जिसको हम lateral geniculate nucleus बोलते हैं. जिसमें multiple layers होती हैं और वो multiple layers अलग अलग तरह की information को pass on करने में help करती है. Now comes the chemical sensations. Chemical sensations में again there are two kind of chemical sensations. One is for taste, which are multiple taste receptors present on your tongue, right? And then there are olfaction, which are present for a smell. So हर smell के पीछे एक chemical होता है, right? All the smells which you receive, which you perceive through your nose, have some kind of chemicals present in it. ठीक है? So what these chemical senses, chemical receptors does, they are specialized in receiving those particular kind of chemical signals. So chemical signals जो है वो basically एक ion की तरह काम करते हैं, which gets attached to them, and then this whole process gets activated. In our olfactory system, there are multiple of these receptors present, and each of these receptors are specialized for different kind of senses, different kind of smell senses. That's why humans have the capability to smell, numerous things. हम smell से बहुत सारी चीजों की पहचान करते हैं, बहुत सारी ingredients की पहचान करते हैं, flavors की पहचान करते हैं. Even we associate our memories also with the smell, right? Sometimes. So, just to give you a little detail about the sensation of taste. So we have on our tongue, we have specialized receptors for salt, for sourness, for sweet, for umami, for bitter. What is umami? So umami is the fifth kind of taste, which is basically given by a few Japanese scientists who discovered, and the literal meaning of umami is delicious. So when you eat something delicious, you will receive that kind of taste, right? So there's one more very interesting thing which is associated with the different kind of taste sensation. So when you require ions in your body, which is in the presence of in the form of sodium or chloride, then you eat salt, and this sodium and chloride gets sensed by the salty taste buds which are present on your tongue. Sour is basically about the pH maintenance. So when you eat something sour, you try to increase your acidic content what you are receiving or what you are having, or the alkaline content what you're having, right? So you try to maintain that. And evolutionary, it's a very great mechanism in humans that whatever they taste, they get to know about what is the concentration, what should be the concentration of any kind of ions, any kind of food or flavor should be there in the body, in the food. Right? For sweet also, they receive it. Right? So sweet is basically for the glucose, because glucose is very much required for the body. So which we receive through any kind of whether it is wheat or any kind of carbohydrates, or we receive from the monosaccharides or trisaccharide sugars what we receive. Right? Bitter is something which is present in the back of it, and bitter gives the also gives an understanding of something which should be taken in a very less amount, right? Because few medicines are bitter, few substrates are bitter, which should not be taken in a high concentration. So body have a reflex mechanism to check whether if you're taking any bitter thing, and you are not able to ingest it. This is one of the structure of taste buds. So there are different taste buds are present for different. There are foliate kind of taste buds. There are fungiform kind of taste buds which are present like this. There are foliate kind of taste buds present like this. Then circumfoliate, which are present like this. So these are a very different, distinct formation. Now let's start with how do we understand brain function. अभी ये सारी चीजें हम बोल रहे हैं, सारी चीजें पढ़ रहे हैं, but this is about the sensation and the perception. But how do we know this? That how the brain is perceiving. So there are multiple methods through which we do this. The first and the foremost method, which even we are going to do tomorrow, the hands-on thing, for the electrical activity, which we use EEG. Then we use neuroimaging also, in which we use MRI, we use fMRI, we use DTI, other बहुत अलग-अलग तरह के मैकेनिज्म, बहुत अलग-अलग CT scan, X-ray. These are all the imaging methods through which we take the images of brain, functional images or anatomical images. We do the chemical analysis, some kind of chemicals which are present in the body, in the brain. What is their concentration? If the concentration varies, it will change the brain functions also. Then some kind of behavioral testing, which our faculty, Ms. Richa, will throw light in the last session today. So for imaging, we have multiple modalities, fMRI, PET, and these are very advanced facilities, very advanced facilities. CT scan is also one of the like advanced facility, but in the 1975, there was the first scan published on CT. I'll just give a glimpse of it. Then there is a functional MRI, which is very sophisticated technique through which we get to know that even when we are speaking the vowels or consonants, let's say if I'm calling only A, O, I. So there are different parts of the brain which are activated. When I say C, D, F, or any consonants, then there are different parts of the brain which are activated. And this we can actually get to know using the fMRI. Functional MRI can actually tell us about what all different regions of the brain are activated together in very similar kind of activities also, right? So I'm going to tell that why am I telling this? A functional MRI, PET scan, all these scans, all these things are present because these are the few things which basically have come up with a scientific advantage and gives us a very deeper picture of how the brain functions. You know, so you see this is RTMS. RTMS is basically transcranial magnetic stimulation. So brain has a lot of electrical activity happening inside. We can actually induce this electrical activity using any magnetic coil. So you see, this is a magnetic coil which is put down on a region which is able to provide sensation or stimulation to the eyebrow muscles, right? So you see that eyebrow is moving. So now the question is why this EEG is still existing. EEG invent हुआ था बहुत पहले, ये भी slide में हम आगे पढ़ेंगे. But why since past around 100 years EEG को हम अभी तक क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? Why this is still needed? So I give you the idea. First is that EEG has a very high temporal resolution. When I say temporal resolution, मतलब कि आपके brain में कोई activity जो हो रही है, you try to understand electrical activity takes hardly milliseconds to happen in the brain. और उस millisecond की जो activity है, that you can actually measure in the using the EEG. So that is one very good advantage. कि कुछ भी होता है brain में, quickly you can measure that something is happening in brain. And because of that specialization in the EEG, it is called as high temporal resolution, right? Temporal is with respect to the time, right? High temporal resolution. So any cognitive activity that, let's say, if I ask you to say something, as soon as you speak or as soon as I tell you to ask, or even let's say I show a dot on the screen, as soon as you will see the dot, what is happening in your brain, we can see that peak using the EEG. That's why EEG is very beneficial in providing the inputs about cognitive processes, about the behavioral processes very quickly, right? Next is it is a direct measure of neural activity. तो बाकी जो हमने देखे क्या वो डायरेक्ट नहीं थे? Actually, yeah. These are not the direct activities like the PET scan or the functional MRI. तो functional MRI का क्या काम है? That whatever region of the brain is receiving the oxygen, whatever region of the brain is actually getting activated, उस एक्टिविटी के लिए उसको एनर्जी चाहिए. For that energy, it is consuming a lot of oxygen. And because of that oxygen, the blood is getting deoxygenated, right? एक सिंपल फिनोमेना है that there are multiple blood capillaries जो बॉडी में जाती है, and then multiple capillaries हर सेल तक ब्लड पहुंचाती है, because blood is required, the oxygen is required for each and every cell of the body. अब वो सेल तक जब ब्लड पहुंचाती है, तो when the cell receive the blood, they also have receiver, they also have one information to be passed on, that what is the impure blood that they are giving it to it. So that is called deoxygenated blood. So the blood oxygenation and deoxygenation, which is an indirect measure of the brain activity, gets measured in the fMRI. PET scan में क्या होता है, that in the PET scan we, for the patient or for the subjects, for the volunteer, we inject some radioactive ligand. और वो radioactive ligand क्या करता है, that is a radioactive tracer for the glucose. Whenever blood requires whenever brain requires lot of oxygen, so ये glucose, this glucose gets consumed in that particular region, and from that region, this जो अलग अलग इसमें कैमरास होते हैं, वो those cameras basically takes the picture of this wherever this activity is happening. So all of these are not the direct activity, right? So EEG is a very direct activity which is happening, because EEG measures the electrical activity, which is the basis of the whole cognition, consciousness, and everything, right? Also, it is independent of any behavioral response. So what happens that if you do the right hand movement or if you do the left hand movement, so EEG can actually specify that which hand movement are you doing, right? Are you actually performing, right? Also, it is very inexpensive, portable and affordable. Minimum can come even up to $750, और जिसका मतलब इंडिया में अगर आप अमाउंट बोलेंगे तो अभी 10 to 20,000 में भी आप EEG devices ले सकते हैं, which are the consumer based EEG devices like your smartphone, जैसे आपका या स्मार्ट वॉचेस आपके पास हैं, you can buy an EEG also. Also, for the most sophisticated system, which one of the system on which we are going to demonstrate tomorrow is very high-end system, right? It can go even up to $300,000. बहुत महंगा system भी हो सकता है, but because of inexpensive also, we do work for that. Now, to understand the EEG basics, for the historical perspective, there are multiple things that Richard Caton has studied the electrical phenomena and then exposed cerebral hemisphere of rabbits and monkeys. Rabbits and monkeys पे उन्होंने काम किया Richard Caton ने, and he was the first person to come up with that there is some kind of electrical activity happens in the brain. उसके बाद the multiple studies have happened which are not for our use. 1924 में Hensberger has actually come up with this term called electroencephalography, and this was one of the EEG which was recorded in 1924 when the subject was performing mental arithmetic tasks. तो कोई भी मैथमेटिक्स का एक टास्क दिया, जैसे ही टास्क रुकता है अल्फा वेव उसमें दिखना शुरू हो जाता है. That means when the person was engaged, then the alpha got disappeared. As soon as person got disengaged from any task, जैसे ही relaxed position में आता है, they see the alpha appears over here. So how do the EEG gets generated? Let's try to understand the basis of it. So electrical activity का basis क्या है? That single neuron activity is very small to be picked up by EEG, because EEG जो हम record single neuron का activity, try to understand ये जो अभी हम पूरे room में or in your domestic household, the electrical activity which is there, the electricity which is flowing this is in volts, 220 volts. इसका एक measure रहता है, like all of you are familiar with that, 220 volts. In US it is 110 volts. Europe also is very similar. And apart from that, when you measure the muscle activity, muscle का जो activity है वो हम measure करते हैं, that is in millivolts, but the brain activity is in microvolts, which is 10 to the power minus 6 times smaller. That means 1,000 of the 1,000 times smaller than what we are actually having in this. तो उसको receive करना बहुत difficult है, बहुत minute activity हो रही है, right? But what happens that EEG is basically the summation of different synchronous activity which is happening in the brain. There are multiple neurons situated in different cortical regions. In the first session, we learned about the prefrontal cortex, frontal cortex, parietal cortex. Even in the parietal cortex, there are multiple regions जहां पे कुछ स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन के लिए वो रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. एंड व्हाट हैपेंस थ्रू दैट, दैट दे whenever these neurons are getting activated, they the whole total summation of the activity is being received by EEG, right? Also, it is excited in inhibitory postsynaptic potential of pyramidal neurons. So basically, if I'll go to the next slide, see, these are the pyramidal neurons. Pyramidal neurons, why do we call it pyramidal neurons? And these are the very, final neurons, very, close to the surface neurons, right? These are present very close to the surface of the brain, right? जो हम यहाँ से scalp to the brain. So these are shaped also as pyramid, and these are very giant neurons. और इनके जो इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी होता है उसके बेसिस पे हम उसको रिकॉर्ड करते हैं. एंड देर आर डीप सोर्सेस विच आर प्रेजेंट इवन द सबकोर्टिकल लेयर्स, लाइक ये जो प्रोजेक्शन न्यूरॉन्स हैं, ये जो इन प्रोजेक्शन न्यूरॉन्स के अंदर देर आर मल्टीपल लेयर्स. कॉर्टिकल रीजन्स के अंदर बहुत सारे लेयर्स होते हैं. वो लेयर्स के रीजन से जब हम रिकॉर्ड करने की कोशिश करते हैं तो वेरी माइन्यूट एक्टिविटी इज गेटिंग रिकॉर्डेड. So there are very different kind of artifacts are also getting recorded, right? Brain activity के अलावा, neural resource के अलावा, there are other sources also from which we record activity from EEG, because it's a very sensitive receptor. It's a very sensitive equipment which receives that energy, right? So when we receive this energy, what is the structure of this experimental EEG data? So there are multiple things which we can take in that. So one is the sampling frequency. Second is the duration of recorded data. Then the bandwidth. What is the sampling frequency? So if all of you are familiar with the Excel sheet, Excel has the cells, number of cells, right? So sampling frequency is something that how many samples you are recording in each and every second. So it's like any activity which you record from the brain, if you transfer, if you convert that signal, if you convert that activity into data form, it will getting clustered into a data of multiple number of cells in the Excel sheet, right? So sampling frequency is basically how many samples are present in each and every second. Or even if you want to say that sampling frequency, why we keep sampling frequency higher, because try to understand in a way that in the brain the activities are happening in milliseconds. That means एक सेकंड के हजारवें हिस्से में वो एक्टिविटी हो रही है, 1000 पार्ट ऑफ द सेकंड. नाउ ये yeah, so more number of samples would be there, more activity would be there. It's like if I have to record the name of each individual in this hall, I will provide each different cell or different tabs in the paper. If I have one paper and want to put two people name, so maybe other person's half name would be there or half name would be disappeared. So information will be lost, right? So we try to give as much as possible samples to give more amount of sampling frequency to record the more accurate data. Okay. Then the duration of data recorded, whatever duration of data we have to record, be it, let's say, for the general activity, we record 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes data. For sleep, we can record even up to 9 hours or 8 to 9 hours of sleep data, right? And then even for some other kind of brain neurological patients, we receive continuous EEG. That means we take continuous EEG, which is happening throughout whenever they are on the bed for 24 hours or 48 hours. For that's called ambulatory activity, and we record that kind of data also. Then what is the bandwidth of EEG data? अब bandwidth को इस तरह से समझते हैं कि bandwidth क्या है? Bandwidth is something that what is the different kind of frequencies which are present in the EEG data. Now try to understand frequencies. आप सब लोग अपने कार में या घर में FM यूज करते हैं, right? So FM has multiple stations. All the stations, each and every station has a different distinct frequency, right? If you have to tune into one station, you have to tune into that particular frequency. Similar way, every system, be it brain, be it telephone, be it any kind of electromagnetic equipment, has a certain frequency. एक फ्रीक्वेंसी का स्पेक्ट्रम है, उसका एक फ्रीक्वेंसी का बैंडविड्थ है. So this is called this range of frequency is called a bandwidth. So the kind of activity which we receive from brain, we receive in these multiple frequencies, and the usual range is considered as 0.5 to 75 hertz. Okay. In 0.5 to 75 hertz, we can divide them into multiple frequencies, which could be delta, which is the very lowest frequencies which is present when we are sleeping, 0.5 to 3 hertz, right? Then comes the theta. So try to understand this frequency is basically like a peak. This peak, number of peaks which are getting, you see lot of peaks are there. So a lot of peaks, when number of peaks in a certain amount of time, in a certain second, is called that bandwidth or that particular range of the frequency. Theta is another range which is running from 3 to 7 hertz. And theta is more specific to when you are when you are dreaming or when you are consolidating your memories, right? So these are very specialized for that particular functions. Even for meditators also, we have found that theta is active. For alpha is basically comes under the range of 8 to 13 hertz. That means एक second में there should be 8 to 13 peaks visible, right? And alpha has a very distinct phenomena apart from all the other frequencies, that alpha is having a sensory gating mechanism. So as soon as you will close your eyes, most of the people will emit alpha from their brain. तो जब हम उनका EEG record करते हैं, which we will show tomorrow also, that as soon as they will close their eyes, the alpha will appear on the screen. Quickly as they will open their eyes, the alpha will go disappear. Right? So alpha has a sensory gating mechanism, and also it is called thalamocortical wave. So thalamus is one part of the brain which is a subcortical region. Thalamus is like a relay center. वो क्या करता है? All the sensory input which are being given to the brain, it goes to the relay center. It's like a post office. That anything which you are posting, any mail, any airmail, if you are posting, it will go to the grand post office, like what is there in the Delhi, right? आपने GPO देखा होगा. वहां से फिर segregate होके, if the post has to go for Punjab, if the post has to go to Chandigarh or Rajasthan, it will go with the separate vehicles, right? Same way, it acts as a relay center, thalamus. And alpha is very much prominent when thalamocortical connections are being formed. That means thalamus is giving any input to the cortical region. That time it is very much visible. और thalamus जिस समय हम आंख बंद करते हैं उस समय पे when we close our eyes, the thalamus is actually projecting that information what it is receiving to the other. It's like that, okay, one time it is taking input from all the sensory organs, and the other time it is giving output to the cortical regions, right? Then there are other things which we call beta and gamma waves. Beta are very much like very much visible when we are doing any kind of motor activity. When I'm speaking, when I'm walking, when I'm running, then beta is very much visible. Also, when I'm engaging into any gaming activity, when I'm very much engaged into any gaming activity or any activity which requires a lot of attention, uh, lot of executive functions, lot of decision making, then there is a possibility that I can emit the gamma. I mean, the gamma can be recorded from the EEG of my brain, right? Kappa and lambda are a few very specialized brainwave, which are not very important to study this time. How do we record the brain electrical potential? So we use a specialized cap, and using this specialized cap, we put the gel using the syringe. This everything we will do tomorrow, so that I'm just giving you a brief about it, so that tomorrow I don't have to tell you the theory thing. Tomorrow we will only do the hands-on thing, right? So this gel has to be filled, and what is the idea of this particular cap? After this, after we put the gel in this cap, we look for the impedance. Impedance basically measures the connections between the brain areas, or I would not say brain area, but the scalp region on which the specific electrode is attached, and the electrode lead to which is going to the amplifier. Okay, so in the in the brain region, I mean, in the process of recording electrical activity, there are multiple equipments which we take in consideration. The major equipment is basically called as amplifier. So amplifier does what? That is a sophisticated instrument which basically amplify the voltage or amplify the signal with the very micro signal which we are receiving from brain. अभी आपको बताया कि brain has a very micro activity which is happening. Like brain has a very specific micro electrical activity in the terms of microvolts. So when you are receiving that microvolts, how it is visible on the screen. So to make it visible on the screen, we do this amplification using the amplifiers. Also, amplifier does a lot of other other work, which basically contrast the signal, which basically eliminates all the noise. So there are multiple noise which are present in the whole surrounding. It could be, if anyone from the engineering background, they know that white noise is present. There are electrical interference which is present in the in the environment. So the electrical activity which is there in the room, that also has a very distinct frequency, which is 50 hertz. If you go to your home, check any appliances, any bulb or any electrical appliances, you see, even for the chargers, mobile phone chargers, you can see the specifications are written over there 100 to 240 volts. Then down below that, it should be written 50 hertz, 50 Hz. So 50 hertz is a specific frequency in which the current flows to our domestic equipments, right? जी आप कुछ बोले थे? अच्छा, okay. Then we measure the impedance, that how these connections are being strong. Now, post recording, we do a lot of other things which Dr. Pradeep will show you online from Bangalore itself, by the signal extraction, quantification, what all things we do in the data. So that will be done tomorrow. Now we understand what is the electrode placement system. अब हमने एक कैप लिया है, जो कैप होता है स्पेशलाइज्ड, उस कैप को हमने देखा, उस कैप को लगाने का पर्पस क्या है, उस कैप को हाउ डू वी यूज इट एंड व्हाई इट शुड बी, वेयर इट शुड बी प्लेस्ड. So there is a distinct understanding about the brain regions when in the initial slide I told you about the horizontal vertical axis of the brain, the different axis, the interior and the posterior axis of the brain, because brain is a 3D entity and there are different regions of the brain especially for different kind of functions. So to understand that the data which we are receiving from any specific part of the brain or any specific part of the scalp from which it is associated, we need to know its location. तो लोगों ने क्या किया, न्यूरोसाइंटिस्ट ने क्या किया, in the previous years they have done a lot of work on brain. They try to understand the architecture and they have tried to understand what are the different regions which are associated with which are named with, they have actually named some of the regions also. They try to understand that this particular region is responsible for vision, this particular region is responsible for smell or taste or something. So based on that, they have given the naming. Also, they have also given the positioning of that. So how they have given the positioning? So there is a equipment which is called stereotactic equipment. Stereotactic equipment does what? Consider how many of you have seen atlas on the globe in your childhood, right? So globe has even when we use the Google Maps. So what Google Map does is provides the location axis, the latitudes based on XYZ axis, right? So what are these XYZ? Consider those XYZ axis to locate any specific region in the brain. Those are the locations for a specific region in the brain, and we try to correlate that, or we try to make that those coordinates to specify any brain region location. Based on that, we have come up with that how do we take the whole brain into consideration by parceling into different regions, है ना? तो कैसे parcel करते हैं? So first region we measure from, it's called nation. So take all of you. ये in between जहाँ हम भ्रुकुटी बोलते हैं, भ्रुकुटी के बीच में, this point which is going inside, this point is called as nation, and the other point which is your occipital ridge. If you can check in behind your brain, behind your head, this bony structure is called as inion, right? So ये यहां से लेके यहाँ का जो पूरा डिस्टेंस है, वी मेजर फ्रॉम द टेप, एंड दिस टेप whatever is the distance, we measure it as 100%. Consider that यहाँ से यहाँ का जो distance है वो 34 centimeters आता है. So that 34 centimeters we divided it 100 parts, and for the first point which we have to fix for the electrode, हम उसका 10% डिवाइड करते हैं. दैट मीन्स 3.4 सेंटीमीटर लेके ये पहला पॉइंट यहाँ पे डालते हैं. Similarly, we put another point after 20%. Then we put another point after 20%. So कितना point cover हुआ? 10, 20, 20. That means 50% is already covered. 50% जहां cover हो गया वहां पे आता है vertex. अब एक और चीज करते हैं. What we do is we measure the head from this auricle point to another auricle point. And ये जहां पर भी exchange करते हैं, जहां पर भी ये cross करते हैं, that point will come over here, exactly here in the vertex. So based on that, we divide that into again the multiple locations, 10, 20%, then again 20, 20, 10%. So that's why this electrode placement system is called as 10-20 system. Okay. Based on this 10-20 system, all the caps are formed, and specific regions, obviously all of us have different head sizes. So different head size caps are also available. Let's say if my head circumference is 54 centimeter, so there is a cap which is provided for 54 to 56 centimeter. If my head circumference is 58 centimeters, then 56 to 59 centimeter, there is another cap which is provided. So they can localize a very specific point in the brain region from which we need to record the brain electrical activity, right? And then similarly, there are multiple electrode placements. So when we can do it, let's say 10% of this is the first electrode. Similarly, we can move towards the left side and then use the same 10%, 20%, 20%, then 20%, 20%, 10%. Similarly, we can use multiple electrode, and wherever these locations are crossing, we provide multiple electrodes on that specific location. So according to a good calculation, this electrode placement of 10-20 system will provide around 31 to 32 electrodes on the head. That is the bare minimum number of electrode which it will have on the head. अब ये 32 electrodes जो आप head पर देखते हैं, इनका position कैसे define करते हैं? That's a very standard method which we use. All the electrodes which are placed on the midline are called as Z electrodes. All the electrodes which are present on the right side of the brain are considered as like nomenclature with the even numbers. All the electrodes which are present on the left side are considered as with the odd numbers, right? So you see, there are multiple regions of the brain. One is frontal region, one is frontocentral region, then central region, temporal region, parietal region, occipital region. So based on that, we provide the name to it. Let's say for the occipital left side, we call the electrode as O1. Right side occipital, we call it as O2. Similarly, in the central, we call is as a central CZ or vertex electrode, or C4 towards the right side, C3 towards the left side. Okay. So this is about the electrode placement system. So when we will use the cap tomorrow, the cap is already fitting up with this measurement, and we don't need to use this nation to Indian thing, but still we will use it. We will do this to understand that actually how the caps are actually being made, right? Then there are distinct placement system which we can even put inside 10-20. So when we are putting the 10, 20, 20 similar way, so we can put in between also, there are multiple electrodes we can put, right? So there are multiple places where these junctions are being made. So between two junctions, we can make another junction. And then again, between these two smaller junctions, we can make another junction. So that's how we increase in the number of electrodes. हमारा जो electrode का number है cap का, वो increase होता जाता है. So try to understand that when we are recording the data from 16 electrode, or when we are recording the data from 256 electrode. So 256 electrode data will be much more denser. It will be having a lot of information, right? 16 channel will not be having a lot of information. So based on the requirement, we choose our cap, with number of electrode, be it 16 electrode or be it 256 electrode. Then comes the montages. So montage is basically the combination of different channel. तो यहाँ जो हम electrodes की बात कर रहे हैं, electrode can be called as also channels, right? Because channel is something through which we record the activity, we visualize something, anything like that, right? We call it channel also. So there are bipolar montages, there are referential montages, there are common average montages. In bipolar montages, what we have is we take the activity of two different locations with respect to a third location. Altogether, so there are two polars. Okay, let's try to understand in a way कि हम जो घर पे इलेक्ट्रिकल अप्लायंसेस यूज करते हैं 3 प्लग्स वाले, हाउ मेनी 3 प्लग्स जो होते हैं, सो व्हाट इज फॉर लाइक जो 3 प्लग्स होते हैं वो क्या रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं? एनीबडी कैन टेल?
தூரம் கொஞ்சம் ஆன மாதிரி இருக்கு.
हाँ, phase
என்னென்னமோ
neutral
fitting extra
and the
fitting எல்லாம்
ground.
வச்சு கொஞ்சம் பார்க்கறதுக்கு ஒரு
Phase
மாதிரி
neutral and the
இருக்கு.
ground. Similarly, the EG what we record is the same activity. That also we record in the on the basis of. So ground is one place. We put the ground at a place where very minimal activity, very minimal electrical activity is there. We put this as a ground. Then there is a reference. So reference is one point in which compared to that we are receiving the information from any point. So let's say if I'm saying that I am very loud, am I loud? So you will say yes, you are loud. But I can say that no, I'm not loud because somebody else is more louder than me. So we need to have a comparison of electrical activity. For that, we need to have a reference. So that's why we use reference channels, right? So referential could be another montage in bit. Acha, montage is in basic. What montage is basically the combination of electrodes from which we are receiving the activity, right? Common average could be that we take the two electrodes as the reference, and then we average their activity to create another channel, hypothetical channel, right? So that is the common average. These are the specific montages. 1020 system, हमने समझ लिया. It has 21 electrodes. Reasons for increasing the electrode, why do we increase the number of electrode? Because he requires to understand more detailed understanding of voltage distribution. Voltage distribution means the same electrical activity which is happening in the brain. And also based on advancement of topographical methods and multi-channel EEG system, we have a lot of information. We can record a lot of information from the brain at a single time. So topographical methods kya hai? That this whole brain is considered as a topology, right? It's a topograph. So that topograph has a lot of information based on its different locations, and smaller the location, more the density of the information you will receive, right? It's more like that amount of receptors present on a layer are much more higher compared to the other surface where the receptors are lesser. So the activity which you are receiving from more number of receptors is actually higher compared to the less number of receptors. That's a very straightforward thing, which you can understand. So there are other systems also which are not very much relevant. I have just put down that as you increase the number, so then from 1020 you can move to 1010. That means in between 20 also you can put another electrode. Then in between 10 also you can put another electrode at 5% of the length or 5% of the distance. So that you give us 10 to 5 system. So if you go with the 10-5 system, it can actually accommodate 345 electrodes on head. 345 इलेक्ट्रोड ये हेड पर ले सकता है. It's just a comparative analysis of why we are still using the high density EEG. What is the comparison of high density EEG with other modalities of brain scanning? So fMRI or MRI is the most costliest, which takes around 10 to 15 CR, 10 to 15 crores to establish. And also the running cost is very much higher because it requires to, lot of maintenance is required every single moment. Then CT is also are very costly. PETs also are very costly. FNIR is a little less costlier. MEG and EEG are very less costlier. That's why we can use that, and it's portable also. Temporal resolution and spatial resolutions are given for the temporal resolution, that how much activity we are receiving from each and every second. That is the temporal resolution. Spatial resolution is how much how densely or how specific location are being traced using any brain scanning activity. So you see, in the high density EEG or EEG, the spatial resolution is much higher, much lesser. That is 55 to 120 compared to 0.5 to 2.8 mm in the MRI. So MRI can actually trace down the very specific region of the brain. Even in MM also it can reduce, it can check 0.5 to 2.8 mm, which in the case of EEG, it is much higher. मतलब अगर 55 to 120 mm का area है, this is much larger. We are seeing that activity is happening somewhere here in 55 to 120 mm area. fMRI can tell us that it is actually happening in 2.8, 0.5 to 2.8 mm area of that particular region. So it is even more specific. So that's why we use MRI or fMRI or all the other imaging modality where high spatial resolution is needed. But there is again a method which has come up to solve this problem, that EEG do not have a high spatial resolution. So we call that as source localization, also called as inverse problem solution. That is also we are going to cover tomorrow. One thing which we are going to take. So after this, we can have a break for 5 minutes, or let me just check. Tea is there? Okay. So tea is there. We can have a quick 15 minutes tea break, and then Ms. Richa can take the session, and she will tell us about the very initial understanding about psychometric analysis, how different kind of psychological assessments can be done, whether you are using with the meditators or with the school population or any other population. Thank you. If you have any question, you can stay here. You can even ask. Yeah. So yeah, we can consider that as a high density EEG, what we are going to use tomorrow, which is having 64 number of channels. So if anyone have a questions, yes, please. हाँ, नहीं, nothing. That's nothing like that.
जैसे मान लीजिए कोई बच्चा मैथमेटिक्स कोई गेम खेल रहा है, तो उसमें दिख जाएंगे कि ये मैथमेटिक्स की गेम खेल रहा है या इंग्लिश की गेम, ऐसा भी फर्क है?
प्रिसाइजली अगर हम इतना प्रिसाइज एक पैराडाइम बना पाए तो ऐसा पॉसिबल।
तो पैराडाइम बनाने के लिए पहले कुछ इंग्लिश का कर रहे हैं तो उसका नोट करना पड़ेगा।
हाँ, हाउ स्पेसिफिकली आर यू मेकिंग द पैराडाइम, क्योंकि कोई भी पैराडाइम हम बनाते हैं तो उस पैराडाइम में किस तरह से हम इंफॉर्मेशन देते हैं उस पैराडाइम में, वी नीड टू पुट दैट, क्योंकि ब्रेन बहुत बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन अंडरस्टैंड करता है जिसको हम परसीव कर पाते हैं थ्रू द ईज। तो जैसे मैंने आपको कुछ बोला, तो मैं आपको एक मिक्स सॉन्ग सुनाऊंगा, एक सॉन्ग सुनाता हूँ, तो सॉन्ग में देयर आर मल्टीपल फ्रीक्वेंसीज, तो इट विल बी द टोटल इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दैट सॉन्ग। बट इफ आई हैव अ सर्टेन फ्रीक्वेंसी, जो मुझे देखना है कि इस सॉन्ग में कौन सी स्पेसिफिक फ्रीक्वेंसी जिसका इम्पैक्ट मुझ पे पड़ रहा है, तो आई टेक ओनली दैट फ्रीक्वेंसी, I'll make it that particular tune and then ask you to listen to it.
मान लो एक बच्चे को मैंने 20 क्वेश्चन दिए मैथ्स के, उसने किए, उसके बाद मैंने गेम दी जिसमें मैथमेटिक्स है। अगर वो दोनों फ्रीक्वेंसी मैच करके, तो इसका मतलब जो गेम में कर रहा है वो वाली मैच फ्रीक्वेंसी जो है,
फ्रीक्वेंसी हम मैच नहीं करते, हम फ्रीक्वेंसीज को भी और आगे उसको स्टडी करते हैं। देयर आर मल्टीपल थिंग्स व्हिच वी डू इन दैट, व्हिच वी कॉल इट क्वांटिटेटिव एनालिसिस। कल के सेशंस में हम देखेंगे, डॉक्टर प्रदीप उसको कवर करेंगे।
जो न्यूरॉन्स देखने होते हैं,
सर मत बोलिए प्लीज,
वो 21 years तक they are full. So what if we are learning a completely new skill after that age? So when we learn a new skill, तो उसके लिए नया,
हम कोई भी स्किल सीखते हैं हमारी एबिलिटीज के अराउंड में ही सीखते हैं, और लेट्स से कोई भी चीज हम लर्न कर रहे हैं, वी यूज इट विद आवर
prerequisite
जो है ना,
कर लिया,
prerequisite already 21 25 इसका हो जाता है, उसी उन्हीं एक्टिविटी के
Suppose
राउंड में
if somebody is learning driving at the age
हाँ,
of 13,
हाँ,
उसने कभी गाड़ी भी नहीं चलाई,
हाँ,
साइकिल भी नहीं चलाई,
हाँ,
कुछ भी नहीं
हाँ.
चलाई. So how is that? What is happening to have
So neurons will not form, only the processes between neurons will form. See, neurons are already being formulated. We try to understand कि जब एक बच्चा है वो बड़ा होता है तो वो बेसिक्स क्या सीखता है. सबसे पहले वो खड़ा होना सीखता है. So when you start
balancing
balancing, वो balancing के लिए जो neurons required है वो generate होते हैं. When you walk, तो walking के लिए जो required होते हैं वो generate हो चुके हैं. When you play or play with a different, तो आपने जो motor movement है उसके neurons already generate हो चुके हैं. Now you need to build the connections between those neurons. जो हम hand-eye coordination बोलते हैं, which is very much required. So what is it? Or we call it a muscle memory. So what is it? It's basically the processes which are being again and again built. It's like कोई भी एक पाथवे जो बार बार उसमें ट्रांसमिशन हो रहा है, इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्सचेंज हो रहा है, प्रोसेस बन जाते हैं वो, और वो एक्चुअली प्रोसेस फिजिकल प्रोसेस बन जाते हैं. एक्सॉन्स आर एक्चुअली बीइंग ट्रांसफर्ड बिटवीन दैट. तो प्रोनिंग इज वन थिंग व्हिच सिनेप्टिक प्रोनिंग हम बोलते हैं. तो दो अलग अलग न्यूरॉन्स के बीच में जो कनेक्शंस होते हैं वो कनेक्शंस ग्रो करते हैं, वो बनते जाते हैं. देयर आर मल्टीपल कनेक्शंस.
Sir, I work with special kids.
Dementia में हमारे collaborators से I was in bank IS not in.
तो सर जैसे ऑटिस्टिक हैं दूसरे किड्स, क्या होता है कि जैसे लर्निंग ग्रोइंग एज है,
लाइन वालों की बारी आने दो.
जैसे जब हमारे पास बड़े बच्चे आ जाते हैं, स्पेशली जब हार्मोनल फैक्टर शुरू हो जाता है 13 बाद, तो उनको वो सिखाना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. जैसे कोई सपोज जो पिक्चर मैच कर रही है, शैडो मैचिंग पिक्चर मैचिंग कर रही है, लेकिन 1 to 10 को रिकॉल नहीं कर पाए, लेकिन रिकॉलिंग है क्योंकि घर में क्या क्या चीज पड़ी है वो रिकॉल रहता है. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि रिकॉलिंग नहीं है, क्योंकि जहाँ पे इंटरेस्ट है वहाँ रिकॉल. अब 1 to 10 में उसकी इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, वहाँ पे उसकी रिकॉलिंग भी नहीं है. तो उस केस में क्या होता है?
So what happens in that in basically about the reasons. So autism, it's not proven, but there are studies that say autism is due to the increase in synaptic pruning. So what is synaptic pruning is when we focus or relearn something, we strengthen our synaptic connection. But when we elevate from that process, or when we distract from, we are not learning that continuously, then that connection starts disappearing. So that disappearance is pruning. So when, as you said, that उनका इंटरेस्ट जहाँ है वो उस चीज को बार बार रिवाइज
कर पा रहे हैं, और जहाँ नहीं
तो बेसिकली वो कनेक्शन उनके स्ट्रेंथन हो जाता है. जहाँ पर उनका इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, लाइक नंबर्स, वो कनेक्शन टूट जाता है, तो दे आर नॉट एबल टू रिकवर.
तो इंटरेस्ट कैसे जनरेट करें, मोटिवेशन?
वो रिवार्ड देकर के उसको कर सकते हैं ना. जैसे कुछ काम जिसमें उसका इंटरेस्ट नहीं है उसने किया, आप उसको पूरा रिवार्ड देंगे तो
हाँ, it's not that easy actually. तो reward mechanism तो बहुत basic mechanism है, but they have very
reward
और उनका सर सेंस भी बहुत
tangible only. It can be intangible. You can say
because mirror neurons का एक concept है mirror neurons का. So mirror neurons are very much active in the kids, or especially in autistic kids, they are very highly active. So mirror neurons का concept क्या है? That why they call mirror, because they see something and they act. They immediately try to replicate that. Physical activity, mechanical activity, जो भी हो रहा हो, they try to replicate. तो वो एक बहुत strong उनमें होता है. So that's why how do they learn? They learn from somebody is doing around them. That's how they learn.
और उसमें ये सर मैंने देखा जैसे पेन को सेंस करने की कैपेसिटी, not in all, it varies.
हाँ, that is also one thing, and it's interestingly with meditators also the same case, that when you meditate for a longer time, the pain sensation or the pain tolerance power increases. Pain sensation decreases, tolerance power increases.
उनको जैसे टच कर लेते हैं, पता नहीं चलता ये गर्म, और मेडिटेटर्स भी इस लेवल पे आते हैं, तो ये क्या हम बोलेंगे इनका ऑलरेडी मेडिटेटिव स्टेट है?
नहीं, दोनों अलग-अलग रिसेप्टर्स के लेवल, दोनों अलग-अलग कॉन्सेप्ट है. मेडिटेटर्स एक अलग कॉन्सेप्ट है. They have come up to that level after increasing. So जब मैं आपको nociception बता रहा था, so how do you receive pain? There are multiple receptors present on it, and then there is a pain is a process to survive.
हाँ कुछ उसमें बताया
Pain is
Fiber.
pain is a process. The pain will not be there. Eventually, the body will get harmed every day, every other time, and we will not be able to heal it. So pain is a mechanism to withdraw from that particular situation. If that is not there, that is a alarming situation. That is what is bad with the developmental disorders. What is the pain? वो भी एक challenge है. आप कुछ पूछ रहे थे ना?
I was talking about FDs.
FNAs, हाँ.
ऑनलाइन वालों की बारी आने दो.
So FNAs do not have high temporal resolution. They have special resolutions. People are using it. See, we are using FNAs also. We are using EEG simultaneous FMRI also. So, but EEGs are still portable. Most portable. FNAs are also portable, but right now they are not coming up with a more affordability. They are still require lot more ज़्यादा products and more affordable. They use it. But again, the changes FNAs also is not a direct action. EEG is the only direct action.
You can tell within a fraction of seconds. वो मैंने लेकिन वही एक जिसमें इंटरेस्ट है वो करते हैं स्कूलिंग उसमें 10th क्लास से एग्जाम मतलब एग्जाम ओरिएंटेड नहीं है क्वेश्चन है तो लिखने
और उसमें से भी आपने
ऑनलाइन वालों की बारी आने दो. डॉक्टर कनिष्क भाई.
सिखा सकते हो.
हेलो. 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 हेलो.
सर आप चैट में मैसेज कीजिएगा माइट बी दे आर नॉट लिसनिंग बिकॉज दे आर एंगेज्ड एट देयर दैट्स व्हाई आप एक बार चैट में मैसेज कर दीजिएगा सो दैट दे कैन ओपन द डिस्कशन एट हियर आल्सो.
ഓരോ പപ്പടം പോയിട്ട് ഒരു പപ്പടം ഓർഡർ
संजीवनी, ये संजीवनी, संजीवनी, ಯಾರ
ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಕ್ಕೆ
ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು
ಮಲಗಿದ?
ಮಲಗಿದ್ದ ಈಗ ಎದ್ದ ಈಗ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿದ.
ಹಾ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಚಾಲೂ ಮಾಡಿದ?
ಏನ ಅದ್ರ ಏನ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೋ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು
ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೂರುವರೆ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಎಷ್ಟು
ಇನ್ನ ಹೋಗುತ್ತ
ओम शांति। आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप अब सभी अंदर आ जाइए।
बोलो। हाँ
वो जूम लिंक से इसको ज्वाइन करो।
मेल पे भेजा है क्या?
मैं भेज रहा हूँ।
ನಮಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಾಲು
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ಅವ ಏನ್ ಬೇರೆ
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ನಾನು ಚಾ ಪುಡಿ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ತರಕ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವಾಗ ಬಂದು ಪಾದನೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ
ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್
ಇತ್ತ ಇದಾವ 60 ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಬಂದಿನು
ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅದ
ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಫ್ರಿಜ್ ದಾಗ ಕಾಣಿಸೋಲ್ವ ಎಲ್ಲಿ
ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕ್ರಿ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ
ಮಲ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಹಾಕೋ ಇವತ್ತು ಮೆಡಿಟೇಟ್
ತಂದಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಈಗ ಬಾಳ ಮುಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಯ್ದಂತ संजीवनी क्या संजीवनी ए संजीवनी संजीवनी इर्ता क्या मल्कोंगिಲ್ಲ
दिशा दिशा ये कह रही, सृष्टि परिवर्तन होगी।
कर ले तो
दिशा दिशा ये कह रही,
You want to use this आपका presentation है
सृष्टि
ready? तो हाँ
परिवर्तन
मेल कर दो मुझे।
होगी।
एक सेकेंड हो रहा है।
जा रहे हैं जीवन के पल पल।
नहीं वो सीधे लिंक खोलो।
हाँ, लिंक ही खोला था। हाँ, एक सेकेंड खोला।
बनो राज योगी, कम दूर हुआ चारों ओर, फैला है उजाला। अब दूर नहीं देर नहीं, सतयुग आने वाला। अब दूर हुआ चारों ओर, फैला है उजाला। अब देर नहीं दूर नहीं, सतयुग आने वाला।
किस नाम से है?
डीन सर का नाम लिखा चले ना, डीन ऑफिसर।
आपने किसी डीन ऑफिस वाले से किया क्या?
हाँ।
चेक करो। नहीं डीन ऑफिस वाला जैसा नहीं होता, प्लीज स्क्रीन है वो जो वहाँ पे।
सतयुग
आपका
आने
रजिस्टर पॉइंट का नाम सही
वाला।
है। हाँ ठीक है, आई विल मेक यू को होस्ट। हाँ यार इससे हो नहीं रहा है, आपको सेंड करना पड़ेगा।
पेड़ उगाओ, विश्व बचाओ, हम सबका ये नारा है। मेरा तेरा सज कर कहो, सारा विश्व हमारा है। पर्यावरण को हमने बिगाड़ा, हम खुद ही परेशान हैं। मत बनो नादान, अब तो करना जग कल्याण है। हरी भरी ये धरती जब से वीरा होने लगी, हरी भरी धरती जब से वीरा होने है लगी, वीरा होने है लगी। जा रहे हैं जीवन के पल पल, जा रहे हैं जीवन के पल पल। बनो राज योगी, कम दूर हुआ चारों ओर, फैला है उजाला। अब दूर नहीं देर नहीं, सतयुग आने वाला। कम दूर हुआ चारों ओर, फैला है उजाला। अब देर नहीं।
बिस्कुट कड़े में नहीं
Om Shanti. Hope you are enjoying the sessions. And are we able to relate this knowledge with Baba's knowledge? Can we channelize the energy? So you have to keep churning within these sessions कि हम ये जो knowledge हमें मिल रही है, which is pure science, उसे हम spirituality के साथ कैसे relate करेंगे, यही हमें करना है। इसी से ही बाबा की प्रत्यक्षता होनी है। तो हमें relation build करना है science और spirituality का। There is a request before we begin with the next session. All those who haven't registered yet for that online link, kindly register. And if you aren't aware of the link, kindly consult me or there is Sister Sakshi. Can you please wave? And Brother Ishak is also around. All right, so you can consult any one of us. So now I request Ms. Richa Goenka, who is an assistant professor of psychology at Rishi Woods University. She's a qualified and experienced professional in the field of psychology. She has finished her master's in psychology from Delhi University. Also, she is UGC NET qualified. She has been working as a counseling psychologist for the past 3 years, whereby she has dealt with adults from all age groups and with varied mental health issues. Her major interest field includes social, counseling, and positive psychology. Her aim is to make this world a better place to live in by working to improve people's emotional intelligence everywhere. And she started this journey by improving her own emotional intelligence, which she realized is also an ever evolving lifelong journey. And she's always in search for better ways to improve it. And last but not the least, she also believes in Baba's philosophy that Swa Parivartan se hi Vishwa Parivartan hota hai. Now she's going to take this session over psychometric testing. Thank you.
Right. So yesterday only I was talking to Shubhangi, Sakshi and Ishak, who are all the followers of Baba. And I was asking Shubhangi, can you describe this philosophy to me in a few lines? So Sakshi and Shubhangi, they were like, okay, that sounds a little difficult. Then Shubhangi told me, so parivartan se vishwa parivartan. Then I was like, oh, that is what I also believe in. That is what I practice with my clients, right? So psychotherapy is all about that. Yeah. So yes. So basically, like until now, Kanesh sir talked about one way of collecting data, and like how I'll also talk about how you can relate all this with the spiritual learnings. So I'll start with that, right? And then we'll move on to another way of doing research. Yeah. So the topic is psychometric testing. You don't need to be worried so much about the term psychometric. It's not about the term so much. Okay. Okay. This is not working. Yeah. So I'm guessing that, so this is something I do at the beginning of all my sessions and even many of my classes. My students here will know. Okay, so I like to see like where my audience is when it comes to their mental and physical energies, right? So I'm hoping here we'll have quite a different response from what I've usually had in other spaces. So yeah, so what I would first like you to do is, I would like you to like turn your insight towards your mind inside, right? And rate your levels of pleasantness on a scale of -5 to +5. Okay. So -5 would look like जिंदगी बिल्कुल खराब है क्या चल रहा है I don't know. Okay. +5 would look like that this is the best day of my life, right? I'm getting to learn so much and everything, right? Nothing better than hearing Richa and Kanesh sir today. Okay, so that is what it would look like. So give yourself a rating and keep it to yourself. Done? Okay. In type of testing, which is energy. You see that on the y-axis, right? So again, from -5 to +5. So now turn your insight towards your body and think about your energy levels. -5 would look like, I want to sleep. I don't want to be sitting here. It's getting very hard for me. +5 would look like that I want to remove Richa and I want to come up and here take the session. So, yeah, so give yourself a rating. If you want to do that in between, I can give you some space. So let me know. Done? Okay. So you see the 4 boxes here, red, yellow, blue, and green, right? So Yellow is high energy, high pleasantness, right? So people who want to take the session might be there, a little lower in yellow, might be like happy, but still want to sit there. Okay. Red is something I would be a little cautious of. People high in energy, but low in pleasantness. So people who are kind of angry, want to throw something or, so I'll be cautious of them. And green is high pleasantness, low energy. So very calm, and kind of sab theek hai, life is good, like that, contentment kind of thing. And blue would be low energy, low pleasantness. Hoping that none of you are in that box. But yeah, let's take a hand raise. So who all are in yellow? If you can raise your hands. Wow. Okay, in such cold and after such long workshop, almost everyone is in yellow. Okay, to be honest, I'll tell you, I have done this with so many audiences, mostly students, school students, college students. I've never gotten this response for yellow. Never. Most of the students are either in, let's say, blue, red, right? Front ones a little bit are in yellow, and there are some green ones also, but never so many in yellow. Okay. Anyone in green? Okay. Wow. I see some green sitting in front also. That is amazing. Okay. Right. Red? No one in red. Okay. So I don't have to worry. Oh, one person is there. Okay. No, it's okay. Okay. Blue. Anyone in blue? Okay. There are two people in blue. Right. Okay. So, first of all, kudos. I expected this. I expected that if I do a mood meter here, I'll get a very different response, right? And I can see the effects of Baba's philosophy on you guys. That is amazing, which inspires me more to engage with it. I just started engaging with it a little bit, right? But yes, just talking about so that, people who are in red and blue also, right? Also don't feel like, okay, like what are we doing and all that. So let me just explain the importance of all of these four squares. I think most of you would know. So we don't just always need to be in yellow. So we are living in a world where we mostly talk about, okay, happiness, staying positive and all that, which is important, right? But do you know where empathy comes from? We all want people to empathize with us. Who wants people to empathize with them? Everyone? Everyone, right? No one would want that people don't empathize with them. Not sympathy, empathy, right? So empathy falls in the blue region. So when someone is feeling pain and they're sharing it with you and you feel their pain, you are in this region, right? So if you are not in the blue, if you're not capable of being in the blue, you're not capable of empathizing with other people, right? So people in blue, you can empathize very well with other people right now. Yeah. Okay. And red. So yes, red would involve maybe anger, but if channelized well, right, it can lead to maybe working on a lot of issues of injustice that are prevailing in the world. So if you don't have that emotion, right, assertiveness, then you won't be able to draw boundaries and then you won't be able to work on so many issues. We all know the importance of yellow and green. Yeah, the yellow is very good for creativity, very good for engaging in this session. Yeah, so that would be an ideal place. I think between green and yellow would be the ideal place for engaging in this session. So I see most of the people in that zone, which is amazing. Okay, so others like who are not in that, maybe like we can see how we can move from one box to another. Just notice what helps you move from one to another, right? I think that kind of building your emotional toolbox further is something that can help you a lot. I do not want to talk about emotions too much because I know people here would know much more than me. So I'm going to move on. Okay. So yeah, since I'm going to be engaging with you even tomorrow, okay, for a while. So I thought let us get to know each other a little bit, right? So this is something I thought of that I called it keys to conscious living. But I would like you guys to share, and I will also share one life lesson or learning that probably, helps you live better in your everyday life. So for me, I think, yeah, like just I think a month ago or something, this is something I learned. Observe everything non-judgmentally. So that has been helping me a lot. And recently, after talking to Shubhangi, Swa Parivartan se Vishwa Parivartan is something that is in my mind a lot. So yeah, these are my keys to conscious living. So would anyone like to share theirs? You can take a moment to think if you want. Yeah. Respect for everyone. Okay. Okay. Wow, amazing. Yes. Live in the present moment. Mindfulness. Wow, okay. Sorry? Could you? Oh, like what I said, observing non-judgmentally. Wow, okay. About? Oh, okay. Yeah. So not thinking about what people will think of you. Yeah, that is great. And I think the basis of that is how you think of yourself. Yeah. So, and you have been able to deal with it better these days? खुद ही छोड़ रहे हैं. So I'm guessing you must be doing something different, which is why people are also leaving that kind of attitude towards you. Okay. Well, I'm glad for you that you are in a place where you are feeling better, right? And like this is a lifelong journey. This is something that I've learned. So I've been taking therapy for around 6 years now. I'm also a psychotherapist. I give therapy as well as I take therapy, right? So I have got great results in my therapy with my clients. I've dealt with anxiety disorders, depression, relationship issues, family issues, all kinds of things, right? Even with school students, I've dealt with them. And yeah, so this is one thing that I noticed in my own work as well as with my clients. Um, like we have worked on so many patterns. We have worked on so many insecurities. We have worked on them not being able to assert themselves. Mostly the people who come to me are people who are not able to assert themselves, who are not able to take space for themselves, not express their needs, have very low self-esteem. Those are mostly my clientele. So yeah, what I've noticed is that they make huge improvements, right? But let us say they leave therapy, let us say after 1 year, and good amount of work has been done. So when some very difficult situations come in life later on, they don't deal with it the same way they used to deal earlier. But I see some kind of relapse happening. So, and this is something that I've noticed with my own self. So, which is why I'm calling it a lifelong journey. So I'm trying to find all different kinds of ways to, improve myself as well as my own practice, because my practice is majorly based upon my own therapy that I took. So yeah, so this is what I believe. Like I first try it on my own self, and if it doesn't work there, I cannot try it with my clients. So yeah, so I'm in that process, and I'm thinking it will be lifelong because it was causing some anxiety initially. Then I accepted it's a lifelong journey. It's okay. Okay. So yeah, anyone else wants to share? Yes. Accepting everything as it is. Yeah, that takes so much burden off you, right? I mean, yeah, I had that at one point of time. It's quite difficult though. Letting go of everything. Yeah, like this will be there. This was one of the 8 powers, right? Yeah. Anyone else? Yes. As a God's instrument. Okay. Wow. I would want to know a little bit more about that. What would God's instrument really mean? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that reminds me of some of my own experiences in my practice also. Sometimes I feel I have not done any good work today. And then my clients tell me, Richa, this really helped me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would. So yeah, that resonates with me. I think someone else also raised their hand. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Could you speak up a little, sir? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Okay. So seeing the whole world as one family, right? Right, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Self-reflection. I think it is one of the most important goals of education, which sometimes we tend to forget. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Being grateful. Yes. Gratitude is amazing thing. Yes, Pipana. She's my student, by the way. Right. Yes. So not taking too much responsibility of other people's emotions. This will also come when you start taking responsibility of your own emotions as well. So if you don't do that, it will lead to codependent relationship and lots of problems. Anyway, I'm glad that it helped you. Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that is amazing. I think coming to a point where you can do that, it means like you have huge level of security and you have come to a really great place in your life. So congratulations, first of all. But yes, that is amazing. Okay, so I think like I have got to know some of you quite well. I think there's no better way of getting to know you guys than hearing about your deepest philosophies that you live by. So moving on. Right. I already talked about Swaparivartan se Vishwaparivartan. So I was going to talk about myself, but I've already talked. So, okay. Right. So, yes, so I was talking about how do we relate research to these spiritual learnings, right? So it might be a very naive perception of, I built it from talking to some sisters, right? Like Shivangi, Sakshi, Shak and all. But yes, this is something I got from them and some basic ideas that I collated. Of course, you can build on it more. You will be able to build much more on it, but some basic things to get an idea of what we can do. So this is something that I learned, that there are multiple intervention modules which have been designed by the BKs, right? For corporates, for school students, for all different kinds of populations. There are even different wings that exist. Medical wing, education wing, all of those are there, right? And these intervention modules, they're not, as far as I heard, that they're not being used everywhere, but at some places they are being used. And they are seeing great results with these, right? But those results are not being recorded as such. Yeah. So like I can ask, for example, this is the same thing that happens with my clients. I give them therapy, they benefit, they tell me, okay, all good. But I take feedback. But if I go and tell someone else, right? Oh, my therapy is really working for my clients. So I've heard these kinds of responses. Are you sure it's your therapy? Or do you think it's just, them paying you money so they feel, that it should be benefiting us? It's placebo kind of thing, so they give all kinds of responses. Some people even say, agar unko koi acha friend de dete therapist ki jagah, right? So how do I prove them wrong? I don't have anything to prove them wrong. What do I do? Do I make them talk to the client? If I make them talk to the client, they'll say the client is biased. Obviously, he has spent so much money. He wants to believe this. He's lying to himself, right? So which is why we need research, right? So yeah, so all these intervention modules that are there, I mean, you people can help us in implementing those in different places. I'm sure there are some of you, like all of you are from different kinds of professions, right? And or are in contact with different kinds of populations, be it school students or be it corporate employees. So you can implement those and you can record data, right? And then you can show. So for example, if Seva Bhav is one of your major outcomes, right? So you can see before implementing your module, you can see where they were on that. And after implementing it, where they are on that, right? Or emotional intelligence, where they are on this parameter. So then you can show it, and that is how people will, think that, okay, this is something useful. Maybe we should try this out. Yeah. Okay. Right. Social work. I have been told that almost all of you are engaged in some kind of social work. Yeah. So can anyone tell me about the kind of social work that they are currently engaged in? Anyone? With what population, what kind of work you are doing? De-addiction counseling? Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So making people aware about the addiction symptoms and the need some intervention for the addiction. Okay, that is amazing. Yes. Hmm. Have you had good success in that so far? That's great. That's amazing. You'll have more success if you have a research paper to back it up, by the way. That is very true. So I think that's Swa Parivartan se Vishwa Parivartan that I was also thinking about. I think many a times, like, you don't even need to do anything. Your presence itself, right? That, like, I have experienced it. Okay, I'll tell you this. This was an amazing experience. Generally, like, I've been taking group sessions for a while now, like this, right? But every time I do get a little nervous before sessions. That is, that happens. Although I've been getting a little low on anxiety. But yesterday in the evening, I was preparing for the session, thinking about it. And I was thinking about you guys, the audience that I would be having. So generally, I try to get into the skin of the audience when I plan a session. So thinking, how do they view the world and everything. And just by when I was trying to do that, I felt so much calmer. So just because I was taking your perspective. And that felt amazing, to be honest. I was like, oh, just this small thing. So if I actually did what you're doing, what impact would that have? Yeah. So, yes. So, you are doing all kinds of social work. And Shubhangi told me that one project that has been done is that some sisters worked with prison inmates. And yeah, and they found really good results there, right? But I think, like, if I told someone, okay, that by teaching meditation to prison inmates, you can have great results, people who have committed murders and that kind of thing, they'll say, are you crazy? They won't even listen to you. Yeah, they listen. But if you tell someone, yeah, see? Yeah. But if you tell someone, they're not going to believe you. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that is why, I mean, you need to put it out there. Yeah. So, I mean, like, for example, if I tell you, okay, like, I know, like, most of you believe in the purity of food, jaisa ann vaisa man, right? So if I tell you that eating chocolates for a month, eating chocolates every day, 10 chocolates a day, leads to very high levels of happiness. Will you believe it? No, right? If I showed you 10 research papers, even then not? Okay, very strong belief system. Okay, that is good. You might think I faked research, right? Even that is there. Okay, right. Yes. So next is, so the kind of social work you do, so you are doing the same thing, but you can just simply, before engaging in it, you can collect some data on the kinds of things you are trying to change in those people. And after you do that thing, right? So you run your awareness campaign, or you tell them about meditation, right? And then you check those parameters again, right? So be it gratitude, be it seva bhav, be it emotional well-being, anything. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. You don't have to do much in it. Okay. Next is, you already engage in self-reflective journaling every day. This is what I heard, which is one of the most beautiful things that I've heard. I have not seen this so much in different spiritual organizations. Yeah. So yes. Um, but I'm sure, as if you have had many years of practicing it, you have gotten much better at it over time, right? But all of you know that we have an unconscious, right, which is always trying to protect us in different ways. So even when we are reflecting on ourselves, we might not even know, like, those unconscious fears will come, which will try to protect you in many ways. I also journal at times, and I've noticed that coming up. Many days later, I realize, oh, this is what I was doing, right? So that tends to happen a lot. So in your own self-reflective journey, maybe you can try these assessments now and then to see objectively where you stand, which is why, so this is what we say in psychology, right? That many people believe if you study psychology, your mental health issues or your emotional well-being is going to get better. It doesn't work that way. Because you will have an unconscious always trying to protect you. So therapists themselves go to therapists to seek help because we might be biased in our own interpretations. So these tools can help you also, know better about yourselves. And we'll use one of these tools in a while. Okay. Right. Testing the PK philosophy, right? This is what some things came to my mind, very basic ideas. But if we are saying so parivartan se vishwa parivartan, so maybe we can see if you start today, right? You see where I am at on these parameters of emotional well-being, of gratitude, compassion, right? And then you say, let us say after 5 years, where I'm at on these parameters. And same thing you do for the kind of impact you are having on the world around you. You take a test today and after 5 years, you have a very direct result showing that, okay, I was here, right? And the impact I was having was also here. Now the impact on the world has also increased with my own well-being. Yeah. So you can have a very direct result for your philosophy over there. Next, Jaisan Vesaman. So this is what they were telling me. It was, yeah, so Sakshi was telling me, like, if I eat like pure food, right? And also food which is made with love and everything, and I engage in meditation. Yeah, that is going to be much more effective than if, let us say, I just do meditation, but I don't think about the purity of food, right? That is something that will be hard for many people to believe, to be honest. So I think if I ask my psychology students also, not all of them would immediately agree with it, probably. So I can see them smiling. But yeah, so because we are trained to be a little critical. You want to say something? Okay. Yeah. So maybe what we can do is, like, here, how would the research go? You can have one group of meditators who, because there will be many, like, because of all kinds of constraints. Let us say a student who is a follower, right, but who is staying on campus. She doesn't have much option to eat the other kind of food. She doesn't have much time. Constraints are there, right? I'll have to eat the kind of food that is made, let us say, in my home. Mostly it's packaged food that is coming. So I'll have to eat that, right? So there will be many people like that. So why not have a comparison of these two groups? People who are engaging in meditative practices and eating pure food made with love, and people who are engaging in those practices but are not eating this kind of food. So then again, you will get a very direct result for Jaisan Vesaman, right? Okay. Yeah. Yogic kheti is another thing. I think some research has been done with on it already, right? I want to read those research papers. I haven't gotten around to, but this seemed like a beautiful thing. So I heard that it has been tried that if you say just words of love every day to plants, they respond much better in terms of their growth. And I heard even a barren land has been turned into a fertile land by doing this, right? So that is very beautiful. So I wonder, like, I think some research has already been done on that, but no amount of research is less for this because this is a very hard thing for scientists to believe. So, yeah. Okay. Right. So heart and mind in harmony, power of emotional intelligence. I promise you I'll not talk so much about emotions, like not teaching you. Okay. But yes, I think who said? One of the sisters earlier in the discussions, she talked about having your values, your thoughts, and your actions in harmony. Right. And I was asking Shubhangi also this thing. Shubhangi, I hope you're okay. I'm taking your name again and again. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I was asking her this thing that all of you engage in so much social work, right? But I'm sure there must be some moments when you are, let us say, in blue, that blue box, right? Or when you are in red. So do you really feel like engaging in it? And what if you then, is it more like, oh, I should be engaging in it, that's why you do it, right? So she told me a very beautiful thing. She said, we are taught this, that you never engage in seva until it really comes from the heart, right? That sounded like a very beautiful thing. And this is what happened. Okay. Where did this come from? Oh, I think online thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. So this is what I think. Most of the mental health issues, be it anxiety, depression, they come when you're. I think there are four things. Um, right. Heart, mind, body, and action. Okay. So let us say that I feel very low right now. Okay. But you are asking me to engage with this group of people where I have to talk very enthusiastically to push this idea across to them. How will I do that? What will happen is I'll feel anxiety. Right. Imagine every day this is a part of my job, a salesperson. He has to do this every day. And I wonder how many days he is really in the yellow state to be able to do that. What will happen? He'll end up developing an anxiety disorder. Yeah. So, or like imagine, let us say that, yeah, like I'm very low on energy. I didn't sleep well last night. And then you're asking me to run a marathon, right? Or my mom is asking, I face this. All of us have to cater to these demands every day in some way or the other. It's just about degrees, right? I wonder who has reached a point where they're completely able to align all of these things. But yeah, these demands do occur. I go back home, right? I feel very tired. Let's say I've traveled, and then my mom will say, "Yaar, market se ye le aa." So my body is saying, sit, rest, right? But mine will be saying, "Yeah, come on, help your mom out." Okay. So, and then maybe the tiredness will increase, fatigue will increase. So all mental health issues happen, right? When you increase this disharmony among these four things to a great extent, right? So my value system says always be honest, right? And then a friend tells me that, okay, no, you cannot tell this thing to the other friend, lie to them. So that will create anxiety in me. Yeah? Yes. Someone was saying something? Sorry? हाँ, दिल से नहीं करेगा। तो लेकिन अगर दिमाग से किया और दिल को छोड़ दिया, फिर वहां पे एंजाइटी होगी, प्रॉब्लम होगी, आइडेंटिटी क्राइसिस हो जाएगा, राइट? ओके. So when I was, because I'm very passionate about emotional intelligence, I told you, right? So I was looking on the website for what kind of content is there on emotional intelligence. Is something already available when it comes to BK philosophy? And I saw 30 episodes of BK Shivani, right, talking about emotional intelligence, how to develop it. And I was like, okay, what I am doing, my work has been so less. She's done so much more, right? And so I felt like, yeah, so I saw this definition over there. Emotional intelligence is an act of handling problems of daily life wisely. So yeah, so this is a very basic definition, but yes, it kind of like puts everything together. So the goal of it, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so, and there are some other things that were said, that all our emotions, fear, anger, they come from our beliefs and perceptions. However, we are mostly unaware of these beliefs and perceptions. And then what happens is, when we are unaware of them and our emotions also come from them, then we become kind of tools of those emotions. We are at the mercy of them, right? So I think one of the sisters said, "Krodh ke chains, anger chains," right? And which felt like a great thing. She talked about primary and secondary emotions in this one statement. Okay, anger is said to be something, we might think that we have more control when we express anger, but you feel very helpless when you express anger. It is actually an act of helplessness. If you really like, because it comes from pain, we don't often realize it. It comes from pain. So we express anger, we don't deal with the pain. What will happen is, okay, anger wala cheez ho gaya, but the pain will remain and this will go on in my relationship with that person and it's not resolved, right? So if you really resolve that, what will come is assertiveness, not anger. Yeah. So yeah, so when she said chains, chains of anger, that's what it made me think of. And I felt, wow, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. First of all, how do you differentiate between brain and mind? Oh. Hmm. Right, right. Yes. Hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Hmm. That is what my eventual goal is. But yes, understanding emotions, how they come, right? Primary, secondary emotions, the function of different emotions, that all emotions are very important. Each emotion gives you a message. The more you resist them, the more they'll come, right? So it's more about just letting them be and observing them non-judgmentally and all of those things. So yeah, understanding all of that will eventually lead to wonders. So that is what I'm trying to do every day, with myself and with others also. And I think you guys are also trying to do the same. So yes, understanding the mind, what you call, is something that is our goal over here. Okay. Okay, so these are some basic components of emotional intelligence that I've written here: recognizing emotions in self and others, understanding causes and consequences of emotions, labeling emotions correctly, which is important. If I call it frustration, irritation, there's a difference between the intensity, right? Expressing emotions appropriately and regulating emotions effectively. Okay. Oh, right. So I would want all of you to rate your emotional intelligence on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the lowest and 10 is there's no further room for me to grow. I'm completely emotionally intelligent right now. Done? Okay. So now we are going to take a test which will again assess your emotional intelligence. It's a 10 minutes test. So can we distribute these to everyone? Yes.
Om Shanti, just one announcement for tomorrow's session. So tomorrow we will have parallel sessions. Ms. Richa and Dr. Shubhangni will be taking parallel sessions for the psychometrics. What all different tools you can use to understand and measure different type of emotions, different type of cognitive factors such as attention, memory, and all. So that will be a parallel session. But because of time constraint, we are also keeping the main session will be in this hall only, and the parallel session we will keep on mostly on the history hall. If any information will be changed, we will let you know. So anybody who is interested to go for the parallel session, they can tell us right just after this session. They can put their names with साक्षी बहन, साक्षी को आप अपना नाम लिखा दीजिएगा जो जो इंटरेस्टेड है इस सेशन को कंटिन्यू करने के लिए. बाकी लोग इसी हॉल में रहेंगे जो ईईजी के सेशंस रहेंगे उसके लिए. थैंक यू.
So the sheet that you have received, go to the second page, turn it over. Don't read the first one. So go to the second one and attempt the questionnaire. Just notice that in some questions it is reversed. It's written 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So like strongly disagree will be 5. And in most questions it will be strongly disagree will be 1. So attempt accordingly. Don't think much about it. The first response that comes to your mind, go ahead with that. Acha. None of them will go for the MOU. Has anyone received CDS test? If you have received CDS, please change it. That's not what you're supposed to be filling. There are some more people over there, Priyanka. हाँ, you have to attempt the shoot self-report emotional intelligence test, SSCIT. This one. क्या करना है? Give it to me. एक टेस्ट है ना. So I hope like all of you understand English here well, what is written. If you have any problems with understanding any words, please reach out to the volunteers. So like there's a question, I know when to speak about my personal problems to others, right? So you'll say like I strongly agree would be that that I know this very well. This is the highest, right? And if I'm terrible at it, then I strongly disagree. Okay, so accordingly you have to do. Just take care of the question number 5 and question number 28 and 33. Those have reversed points. Strongly disagree is 5. Oh, that is okay, not a problem. Yeah. Whenever you are done, please raise your hand. The volunteers will collect the test. Oh, not right now. Okay, don't collect it right now. Let it be. Scoring भी तो करना. Once you are done, you can like get your total score by adding all the responses. Yes. Okay. Yes, yes.
Just let them complete. No?
Still some have done, no? So I'll tell. So, for example, for first question, you have selected 1, strongly disagree. For second question, you have selected 3, neither disagree nor agree. So, you will just add 1 plus 3, like that. So, add the responses of all the questions. Yeah. Scoring also done? If you are done with scoring, then you can raise hand. The ones who are non-BKs, just write non-BKs. So we just want to see the differences also. So ये on की थी फिर हट गई दोबारा करना ये भी खोल के देता वो बंद हो गई Let's take 5 more minutes and wrap this up. Please remember your scores. I hope you remember them. Who all are left? Please raise your hand. Who are left? Okay, few people are left. Okay. Hmm.
By the Department of Physiology, that is, there is Professor Kamlesh ji, and this research is being co-PI'd by Shrikant Bhai ji.
Hmm.
उसमें क्या है कि we want to test the impact of meditation, and for that there is a provision by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. They have funded this research, and the research going on is going to test two categories of people: people who come with this psychological disorders, panic disorders in particular. And one group is tested without meditation, the other group is tested with meditation. And there has been a research for the last 1.5 years.
Wow.
And the research has been documented quite well. And we have provided there's the yoga meditation instructor in that research. And the research findings has come out, and it has categorically given these findings that people who undergo meditation as a tool to overcome the panic disorder disease have performed better than the people who are doing just dependent on the medicines.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
this, whatever you're saying, I don't think that most of us will be able to do it because we have not been groomed into doing experiment and researches.
Got it.
But we can employ the facilities available with these premier organizations like IITs and AIMS to take this research, and we will cooperate with them, and then the research would give the clarity as to how this is actually helping.
So I was just coming to that after you fill the questionnaire, that what we expect from you and how you can assist with us with that.
Yeah.
Of course, you're not, I'm guessing probably there's hardly anyone who is a trained researcher here who has written a research paper and all. That is not the expectation. So
Right.
what you just did right now, you took this test, right? So do you think you are capable of administering a test like this to someone? Yeah, this is all that we need you to do. This is how you can assist us. This is like you can collect this data and then you can give the scores back of, let us say, an emotional intelligence test to us. So we'll know, let us say if there are two groups, meditators, non-meditators. So we'll have the emotional intelligence scores of meditators versus non-meditators as well. And then we will do the analysis part and then we'll put it in the form of a paper, research findings. Yeah, so this is something that can be done, sir?
This will be just the psychological aspect.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
I'm trying to say that if you want to do something medically, that, for example, AIMS does not only do psychological sort of, it does the testing in every part, and there is a particular department doing it. So that is much more impactful and scientific.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are different types of data collection, right? Before me, Kanesh sir talked about EEG. So that is where you collect data on the brain waves, the neural connections and everything.
Right.
So you will get a basic idea of how to collect that kind of data also tomorrow. This is collecting psychological data. Then there are many other kinds of data. There are health related data, which of course even I cannot collect, right? So measuring blood pressure or whatever, that will be done by physical health medical professionals, right? So I mean, then we'll have to see if we want to collect that kind of data also, then we'll have to get together those people. I'm sure there must be many followers who are doctors also, right? So people from the medical wing, they can assist us.
The
with
benefit
same.
of doing such research with the premier organizations is that it has the thappa of the government Department of Science and Technology aided research. So it has got much more recognition than doing individually on certain people.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about doing researches with these organizations, that is true. So, for example, you
But we can start with what you are suggesting. We can make a.
So you give us the data, we make a proposal and we can give it to these institutions. These proposals we can submit to them. There are many organizations which fund good research. So for like there is ICSSR in social sciences, it funds the research.
True.
So we can submit the proposals, like if you give an amazing proposal, ki meditator ka ye karna hai versus this, and something like this has not been done before, right? So there is a good chance that we'll get the funding also. They'll assist us with the same also. So yeah, that is a great idea. Yeah. Okay.
Professor Richard, thanks for giving this opportunity. I think I was able to hear the kind of, two different observations.
and suggestions. What he's trying to say, of course, institute is one thing, but what he's also saying is making it more scientific. Like in a questionnaire like this, people can have biases. On the basis of biases, once the rule is known to people, they can tick accordingly, and then it doesn't sound very scientific, and government bodies also know. So here I have a proposal, because in this you have not mentioned GSR so far. That is galvanic skin response.
Physiological data.
Yeah, so maybe he's not aware of that. That galvanic skin response works on the sweat, and the device is portable. It can be attached to your laptop. So if you give your thumb impression after cleaning it with towel before the meditation, and then you give it with the same thumb impression after the meditation, if there's a difference, that also could signify that there is something which is happening with meditation, which is not injectable. Because for injections, you need medical support, you need doctors, you need permission, so it gets very deep. But GSR, I think, as a psychophysiology student like I am, I think that can really fit in well.
Yeah, it's always best to collect different forms of data, but I think this is a question many people will have after filling this questionnaire कि मेरा bias आ सकता है इसमें, you know, I'm trying to project myself in a good way over here. But some people did come and say, I think he mentioned bias, and someone else also asked me कि ये तो bias responses हो सकते हैं हमारे, right? And it can be biased also in the way of self-reflection. We lie to ourselves also. Maybe you're not lying intentionally, but we also lie to ourselves, right? So it can be biased in those ways. And I'm just coming to the biases now. So there are ways to deal with these biases also. First of all, no science ever proves anything. It just gives evidence to suggest something. There is always a possibility that there could be another cause of what you are saying, right? So even if you collect GSR data, right? So you cannot entirely prove anything.
No.
So-
Sorry, I'm interrupting, Rich.
Yeah.
I think what I'm saying is, like, even if you go by, Thomas Popper, he's saying falsification. So जो भी आप scientific काम करेंगे, falsification पीछे बैठा है.
Yeah.
Falsify करने के लिए. But I think वो जो भाई साहब कहना चाह रहे हैं कि अगर आप कुछ ऐसा हो जो physical हो, और देखिए sweat अगर आपने नापा मेडिटेशन से पहले और बाद में, तो वो बहुत फिजिकल है, वो डेटा झूठ नहीं बोला जा सकता. वो स्वेट जो आता है बहुत सेंसिटिव होता है, जीएसआर जो पकड़ता है. आई थिंक दैट्स अ इम्पोर्टेंट सजेशन. इफ यू कैन टेक दैट होम, it can be transformational, because people across 4,500 centers can do it simply attaching that machine, which is like 4,000 rupees, to your laptop, and the data can come, which can be phenomenal. So
I think Kanish sir can maybe train you guys if someone wants to record that kind of data also. That can also be done.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is not to miss this idea of GSR.
Yeah. I
which
think
hasn't come in conversation so far.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
I know.
This is not working.
See, those can be exceptions. ना उनको फिर भी आप क्वेश्चनर में नोट करके आप सेग्रीगेट कर सकते हो, बेसिक कोर डेटा ले सकते हो. Noted. EEG is great, but I think there's something in between which he was talking about. I think where GSR can do well.
Sorry. I think we need to move on. Maybe we can have discussion later on. Yeah, but I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't think that's the problem for something else. Try from here. लाइट चल रही है. इस कनिष्ठ सर चले गए हैं क्या? Yeah. Okay. So may I know the scores of few of you? Anyone? Yes. 130. Okay, great. Anyone else? 136. 159. Wow. 170. Oh my God. 159. 146. Anyone below 124? 116. 102. 122. Okay, so this test has been done on many different kinds of population. For the non-clinical population, I mean population which does not have mental health disorders, the average was found out to be 124. With a standard deviation of 13. I mean, if you don't know what is standard deviation, you don't need to think about that. But if you're below, let's say 111, right, then that is very low. That is quite a low emotional intelligence. And if you're above 137, that is a very good emotional intelligence, right? And if you are between 111 and 137, you are around the average, okay? So all of you who just told me the figures, now can you relate it with the rating that you gave yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? So is it matching? For everyone, is it matching? Anyone for whom it is not matching? It's matching? Okay. So it means that all of you are very good at self-reflection. So maybe you don't need psychometric assessment for yourself as much. Okay. But you can give it a try. I'm pretty sure you'll find new things. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. I did already expect this. That is why. So I already expected that you'll have good self-reflection. Yeah. I mean, every day you journal about everything. That is like amazing, really. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, this is how we'll be, you can assist us with collection of data. Okay. Like you can give instructions to your participants, fill this questionnaire and everything. Let us say there are some participants who might not be interested in filling a questionnaire. They'll be like, what is this, right? Prison inmates will be like, "Ye kyun mujhse fill karwa rahe ho?" So don't worry. Then there is another, simply you conduct interviews. Okay. Interviews as in, like you take their feedbacks informally, right? Okay. How did it work out for you? What happened for you? Then you standardize this a little. For all of the prison inmates, let us say, you ask the similar questions, right? And whatever data that you get, you transcribe it. I mean, you write it, record it, and write it. And there are ways of analyzing that data also more objectively. Okay. So you give that data to us, those transcripts of the interviews. So for example, we can make the interview questionnaires for you, which will not be very close-ended, which will be very open-ended, right? And then you can conduct those and we can just do it that way. It's just the same thing you are doing, just in a little bit more structured and standardized way. Okay. So this everyone thinks they can do this type of data collection. Doing the interviews or the psychometric tests, giving them, right? Telling them how to score the data, like just add it up, right? Or telling, you will have a manual of the test, which will tell you what is the average emotional intelligence, what is below average and all of that. That information will be there with you, right? So this seems pretty simple, right? So that's all that psychometric testing is about. There are a few more things also. Okay. So this is group A and this is group B. I'm going to do one activity. So when I say group A, okay, group A will keep their eyes open and group B will close their eyes. Okay. And when I say group B, group A has to close their eyes. Okay. Right. So group B, please close your eyes. Group A, just like notice what is written on the screen and pay attention to it. Group B, no cheating, okay? I hope it's visible to everyone. Yeah, red? Okay. Just to make sure that you understand this term in between. Yeah? Did everyone get it? In group A, please raise your hand if you got it. What to do? Okay, everyone got this. Yeah? Okay. Now, group A, I require you to close your eyes. Group B, keep your eyes closed, please. Group A, close your eyes. Group B, open your eyes. Please read this. Everyone has got it? Anyone who has not got it, raise your hand. No? Okay. Great. Right. Okay. Everyone open your eyes. Group A, open your eyes. Please look at this picture. Okay. Everyone has taken a look at it? Shall we move on? Okay. Okay. Now we'll just take yes or no for these questions. So in the picture, did you see an automobile? Who saw an automobile? A vehicle in the picture? No one saw it? Okay, great. A man? How many saw a man? Everyone saw a man. Okay, great. A woman? How many saw a woman? Oh, group B, please look at group A, and group A, please look at group B. In group A, there are only some people who saw a woman. In group B, everyone saw a woman. Okay, just look at that. I'll show you what happened later on. Fourth, a child. Anyone who saw a child? One person, 1, 2, 3 people saw a child. Even I did not see a child. You will have to show me how you saw that. Okay. Okay. Quite a different perspective. Nice. Whip. Anyone saw a whip? Okay. Okay. Few people here saw a whip. Anyone in group A? Group A, yes. You will obviously see it. Psychology students, right? Apart from you guys, no one saw a whip here. Whip is a stick. Stick. Okay. Yes. Yes, please raise your hand high. All those who saw a stick. Okay. Okay, look at group A. So many people from group A saw the stick. From group B, I see few. Okay. No, there are more also. Good. Okay. Sword. Anyone saw a sword? Okay. So there are more people in group B who saw a sword than in group A. Okay. A man's hat. How many of you saw that? Okay. Okay. So in group A, there are more people who saw a hat. In group B, there are 2, 3 only. A ball. Okay. Look at this. All of them saw a ball. In group B, hardly anyone saw a ball. Okay. A fish. Fish. Did anyone see a fish? Or something like a bait? No? Okay. I think you did not get that, but okay. So I'll show you the instructions now. Both of the groups had different instructions, okay? These are the instructions that group A saw. So they were told that this picture is a rough sketch of a poster for a trained seal act. And just so that everyone knows what a seal is, I showed them this. Okay? Yeah? And group A, this is what group B saw. They were told that they are going to see a picture of a costume ball or of a dance party. Okay? And now look at this picture. Okay? So all the people who saw a woman, right? So they were told that they would see a dance party, a costume ball. So they saw this in the left as a woman, right? All the people who were told that they'll see a seal acting or playing, they saw this as a seal and ball on top of the seal. So now are you able to see it from the another perspective also? Anyone who is failing to do that and needs to see? No? Where did you see a child, by the way? Who saw a child? Does anyone want to tell who saw a child and where did you see it? The fish. Yeah, the stick. You can see it either as a whip or you can see it as a sword. Yeah? You can think of it as a sword. If you're told it's a costume party, then you can think of it as a sword. If you see it as a trained animal act, then you might see it as a whip. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Huh. But that is the purpose. I want to condition you. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm trying to show you here is that all of us have different worldviews. Okay. We are often unaware of them. The families that we grow up in give us different kinds of belief systems. And that is the lens that we see the world from. Right? And we think, okay, this is how everyone thinks. Or sometimes we think this is the truth, which might not always be the case. Your truth was something else. Your truth was an animal. Their truth was a woman dancing with a man, right? So, okay. Yeah, so it is very important to recognize the kind of worldview that you have, right, before you see. And why did I make you do this? So when you are doing these questionnaires also, let us say to one group, I say that, okay, this is, a test to see how intelligent you are. Or to another group, I say, oh, this is just for your self-awareness. They are going to have many very different kind of responses. Okay, so the way that you portray things to them, so when we'll be asking you to collect data also, if you give one kind of intervention to one person and another to another person, right, that will have an impact on the kind of results that you're going to be getting. So when you are administering these tests also, all people need to be having the same kind of instructions and not just instructions. So let us say to this group, I am giving the instructions. To this group, he's giving the instructions. His attitude might be very different, right? Maybe some people get anxious due to me and they respond in other ways and they're bored, or let us say, right? And they're just putting ticks just like this without thinking. And he has explained it very well and everyone is then doing it very well for self-awareness, right? So it will have a huge impact. So this is another thing that we need to keep in mind when administering these tests. Our attitude, gestures, body language, right? That it should be constant across all the people who are collecting that kind of data. Okay, this is known as standardization. Okay. Yeah, so these are basically experimenter bias and participant bias. So I'll tell you about an interesting psychological study. So it is known as the clever hands study. So there was this psychologist, he basically claimed that he taught a horse named Hans to subtract, to divide, to add and multiply. He even taught him German. Do you think that is possible, that a horse will learn all these things? How many of you think that's possible? No one thinks that's possible. But I'll tell you what he did. Then one day he took horse's test. Okay. He asked the horse questions like, if 8th of this month was a Tuesday, then what will be the day on 11th of this month? Okay. And, or like, when will a Tuesday fall, let us say, right? So, and the horse gave right answers. He could not speak, but yes, like for example, it was what is 9 plus 2. So he would tap his feet 11 times. And this was not just for one question. He did this for so many questions. Now, do you believe that Hans learned it? Hans learned maths, how to do addition, subtraction. How many of you believe that? Still no one believes that. Very hard thing to believe, right? You are right. There was a bias in there. What was happening over there was that experimenter did not even realize, but he was cueing the horse what to do, when to tap his hoof or not. Accidentally, he wasn't realizing it. For example, he tapped it once, then he would be looking, guess again. Kind of, he would look at the horse like that and horse would tap it again, right? That's how the horse was getting the right answer. Okay, so it was not because he knew any maths. Okay, so we don't often realize these. Yeah, this is known as conformity bias also. So बोलते हैं ना कि जो हम देखना चाहते हैं हमें वही दिखता है. So this will happen with a lot of experimenters. If I expect that meditators will have higher emotional intelligence, so maybe उनके कुछ ऐसे actions I'll interpret as, oh, this is great, this is a sign of high emotional intelligence, right? And others के actions I'll interpret, oh no, this is not a sign. Same actions I'll interpret differently. That is why we need to standardize and be careful of, how we are portraying it. Okay. Okay, I have another riddle for you. Let's see how you get this one. I have done this again with many people and I'm hoping for a different result over here. Okay, so this is the riddle. Listen carefully. Okay, this is very interesting. So there is a son and a father who are going to market in the car. And on the way, the car meets an accident. Father dies on the spot. People take him away. And the son is immediately rushed to the hospital. The son needs surgery. At the hospital, the surgeon looks at the child and says, "Oh my God, this is my son." Oh, did you already know this? No, no, you didn't know this already? This is logic? Oh, now that you're hearing it, you'll say it logic. Do you know what kinds of responses I've heard to this question? I've heard responses like the surgeon could be a priest, who calls everyone their son. He could be a stepfather. There could be twin brothers, jo bichhad gaye the bachpan mein. Or ghost, all kinds of things I've heard. I have not heard mother very often. Okay. How many of you thought mother, by the way? He said it immediately. How many of you thought it? Okay. Few people. Not everyone thought. Some of you might have been surprised. Do you know why this happened? Why didn't we think of mother? Such an obvious answer. No, I'll tell you why. It happened because when you think of a surgeon, what kind of an image comes into your mind? A man, right? So you'll think of all responses, but you'll not think of the mother. So although we think that we are, like we believe in equality very much, some biases are very deeply ingrained in us. Yeah.
We have been framed
Yes.
from our childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can only be-
So these are some biases which can taint how we are viewing the world, which is why we need to standardize and do research. Yeah. So it happens to the best of us. I believed myself to be a, person, a feminist who believes in equality. I still didn't get this the first time. Okay. Okay. Right. We have little time, right? Okay. Next is operationalization of variables. Again, you don't need to understand this term. Yeah. So, so I was talking to again Sakshi, Shubhangi, and I was asking, like, if I walk this path that you guys are walking, what all will be developed in me? What will I get? Right? These are some things that they said will come in me: self-control, patience, better decision-making capabilities, optimism, empathy, pro-social behavior, brotherhood, gratitude, all these things, right? But let's take any one of these variables. Let me talk about, let's say, humility. Okay. So if I ask you, what is humility? Or what kind of a person will you call a humble person? Can you describe what will you see in that person on the basis of which you will say that, okay, this is a humble person? Anyone? What kinds of behaviors will you see? Yeah. Sorry? Again, you are not describing a behavior. You are telling me a term. Describe a behavior. What would he be doing? What would happen? Again, you are describing. Okay, so when I talk about describing behaviors, I say things like this, that for example, if you praise him, he'll say, probably he'll say, oh no, this is a part of my job or something. So this is an exact behavior. So how do you define respect also might be different for everyone over here. Right? How I define intelligence, I've had a client who defined intelligence by मेरे कम मार्क्स आए तो मैं stupid हूँ, ज़्यादा मार्क्स आए तो intelligent हूँ. Whereas exam में marks आना can depend on a lot of different factors, the anxiety that you are facing that day, how much hard you have worked on it, all those things. So all of us will have different definitions of these terms, right? So even when you are describing someone's emotional intelligence, okay, you might give a rating of 5 to someone. I also might give a rating of 5, but my rating of 5 might mean something else compared to your rating of 5, right? And our ratings of 5 and 7 could mean the same thing. So which is why it gets very important to operationalize variables. Okay. Okay, let me go to this. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if I ask you that we are going to test a hypothesis, a prediction that girls smile more than boys or women smile more than men. And you have to take a look at these photos and you have to tell me whether that's true or not. Not true? Okay. This lady, Ruth, how many of you think that she's smiling? Not smiling? Do you see the difference? Some people think she's smiling, some people think she's not smiling. Our definitions of something as basic as smile is also different. Yeah, that's all that I wanted to show you. So you will have different interpretations of from these pictures, whether this statement is actually true or not. Right? So when I talk about, you all know about hypothetical terms, vague terms, right? For example, freedom, or let us say a nation. All of these are terms which are not concrete terms. We define them in terms of concrete. Concrete will be when you define action, very specific actions. Okay, so you have to go to as specific as possible. So when you were describing humility, you would say respect, approachable. Describe what would you see as approachable, right? I'll see this as approachable if a person is always standing like this and not standing like this. That I'll see as a sign of approachability. So behavior. So that is very important. So if I talk about, this is something I want to test. Girls smile more than boys, right? So all of the researchers, they need to be on the same page. What do they mean by smile? They need to define it in terms of proper behavior, and they need to write it in the research paper also, because again, the readers might interpret it differently. They are interpreting it differently. So many problems will happen, right? That is the problems what we face with so many texts, religious texts, also interpretation problems, right? So, okay. We are done with time.
Already over.
Okay. Right. I think I'm already a little over time. I'm sorry for stretching it too far. I'll just end with this thing, this last test. So, these tests that you took, right? All those, like most of you are very good at self-reflection. So I'm guessing you were not lying to yourself, right? Or not even lying to make yourselves look good. If I took your names, I think some might have thought of that, okay, mera score kam dikha to acha nahi lagega, you know. So some could have thought like that. These tests are taken by HR also in companies, okay, and people fake these. My elder brother came to me and he said, "Ye wala test tune kiya hai?" Because I'm a psychologist, and he said, "Tell me how to fake this to show them this." Okay, so he asked me this question. So people do it all the time. There are trainings for this to excel in SSB interviews. So how to fake your test to show them particular trait in you and all of that. It doesn't work for many people, but there are institutions running on this. So anyway, in order to prevent that kind of thing, so psychologists have thought of that also. They're not very stupid, don't worry, okay? So what they did was that in your questionnaire, you might see many statements which sound very similar. Same चीज पूछ रहे हैं, बस अलग language use करके. राइट घुमा के पूछ रहे हैं. सो इफ दे सी दैट 3 स्टेटमेंट्स ऐसी हैं जो सेम चीज पूछ रही हैं बट घुमा के पूछ रही हैं, उन सबके रिस्पॉन्सेज अलग अलग हैं, देन द साइकोलॉजिस्ट विल गेट टू नो दैट यू आर लाइंग. Okay, you will not be able to catch kaun si statement same hai and all of that. So they'll know that you are lying. Okay, so this is how these are known as lie scales. So, and there are different kinds of such scales in questionnaires from which you can know what is happening. Another way, if let us say even if this does not work, because this will not work to a great extent, kuch na kuch bias kai baar aa hi jata hai. Okay, then there are another kind of tests. These are known as projective tests. Okay, what are projective tests? Projective tests are something that I showed you earlier. I showed you an ambiguous picture, right? If I showed it to you without showing you some instructions before, you would still probably interpret it in different ways. So this picture, if I ask you to make a story that think about what happened before and what is happening now and what will happen in the future in this particular picture, okay? Or let's just talk about what is happening right now. Take a look at this picture and tell me what is happening. Would anyone like to tell me? Yeah. Oh, wow, that is very interesting. I never saw it that way. Yeah. Oh, okay. So actually like time travel kind of thing or imagining? Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, something similar, but yeah, more like regrets. Here is nostalgia. Okay. Others? Right. Yeah, that is also one way of looking at it. Anyone else? How I saw it, so I did this test when I was in my undergrad first year. I saw it as like kind of this lady, like a demon in the head of this person scheming something, you know. So you can imagine probably the state I was in. But so these are the kind of tests which are given sometimes, you know, to see, to test what kind of personality do you have. This is one test known as thematic or perception test. So I'll just ask you, I'll show you some pictures like this, and I'll ask you, make a story out of this. Tell me what happened before, what is happening now, and what will happen later. All of you will make very different stories, like we saw just here. From that, I can get to know what type of personality, what fears, what belief systems you have. These are known as projective tests. They are not easy to administer. They are generally administered by very trained professionals, right? So, but I just wanted to give you an idea of they are the kind of tests which will have lesser biases. If I don't know what is being tested, right, and how will I put it out, then I cannot fake also, you know. So I remember when I was taking this test, there was a psychology student who administered it to me, a senior of mine. So I asked her this, that you know, I feel like जब भी मैं कोई पिक्चर देख रही हूँ तो मेरे दिमाग में मूवी से कोई सीन आ रहा है, ओके, तो मैं मूवी वाली स्टोरी अगर लिख दूंगी तो वो तो बायस्ड हो जाएगा. आई वाज सेइंग दैट टू हर. So I should not do that, right? So she refrained from answering. Once I completed the test, then she answered. She said, even if you're remembering a scene from a movie, right, that means it's resonated with some part of your personality, which is why you are remembering just that scene, not all the things from all the movies, right? So it also tells me about your personality. So yeah, these are quite interesting tests. This is another test known as ink blot test. So how you perceive these very vague ink blots, what you see in them, and where you see movement, what shapes you see in them, we can know what kind of personality you have. Again, not exactly a replica of your mind, but we can get to know something. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So I just put these 8 parts of the soul, like just now earlier, because I was relating it so much with my therapeutic practice. So all these power to accommodate, power to tolerate is something I'm trying to build in my clients every day. I think the first goal of therapy is to have them become mindful of their own patterns, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and then everything changes from there, right? So power to tolerate will come. If I know I'm smart and someone calls me stupid, it won't affect me. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to end here. I hope you enjoyed the session. Why not let's do the mood meter once again? Okay. Since we are ending after a long day. Okay, where are we? Which box are we in right now? Still in yellow. Wow. Okay. So I'll take that as a positive feedback. Okay. I don't think everyone is in yellow. Some people will be hesitant after hearing yellow. How do I say I'm in red? Who is in red? Green? Oh, nice. Green is good. Okay. Blue? No one is in blue? Oh, so blue went away? Some people were in blue. It went away. Wow. Amazing.
About your question. Therefore, they said in blue.
I don't think they had confusion. No. Did you have confusion, all those who were in blue? No, they were not confused. Yeah. What about red? Anyone in red? Okay. So I'll take this as a feedback. My sessions can bring people from red and blue to yellow and green also. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Om Shanti. Yes, one more thing. Tomorrow we'll have parallel sessions, as Kanesh sir said. So Kanesh sir will be talking about more advanced ways of collecting physiological data, electrical data and all. And I'll be talking about more details of how to collect psychometric data in better ways, reducing the biases and different kinds of tests. So you can attend either one of those, whichever one suits your personality and interests. Okay.
Om Shanti. Just few announcements. So first of all, thank you, Richa ma'am. You really gave us a very good session. It was very interactive and we all enjoyed, yes? Can we give a good round of applause for her? All right. So there are a few announcements for tomorrow's session. If you can please check your schedule, which we have provided you. There we have mentioned that there would be a parallel session going on at around 11:40 till 1 o'clock in the morning. And and the sessions would be about cognitive science experimentation, which would go parallelly along with reviewing EEG, which would be a virtual session. So those who are interested for the parallel session, can you please inform us? Yeah, to Sakshi Ben. Where is Sakshi Ben? Yes. After this, please come to her and let her know if you are interested for the parallel session. And also at 2:30, again, there would be a parallel session, which is psychometric testing along with data visualization, which will be again a virtual session. So again, if you are interested, please inform Sakshi Ben about it. Now, the next announcement is that who are going today? Anybody? So we'll be coming back tomorrow? Tomorrow? You will be coming back tomorrow, right? Those who are going today, if you could please stand once. We need to see the dinner arrangements. That is why we are just confirming. If you could let us know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sakshi Ben 6. Thank you. And anybody who is going to Delhi today? Okay. We need your help. If you could please come to us after the session, if you're leaving. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, anybody who has joined new in the session without registration? Almighty, embrace yourself with his powers and then try to chant and, goodness in you, around you. Thank you. Om Shanti.
भारत फिर भरपूर बनेगा, ओ भारत फिर भरपूर बनेगा, कोई नहीं कमी होगी। हीरों से आकाश भरा, मोती से भरी जमीन होगी। हर बालक कृष्ण कन्हैया सा, राधा सी हर बाला होगी। सुख शांति प्रेम पावनता की, वसुधा पहने माला होगी। हर बालक कृष्ण कन्हैया सा, राधा सी हर बाला होगी। सुख शांति प्रेम पावनता की, वसुधा पहने माला होगी। नर होंगे श्री नारायण और नारी श्री लक्ष्मी होगी। नर होंगे श्री नारायण और नारी श्री लक्ष्मी होगी। तीरों से आकाश भरा, मोती से भरी जमीन होगी। कोई